of the AP Studios, not sponsored in any way by Nikon. We welcome everyone who is tuning in across the world and those listening to this recording. We welcome you to get active in the chat, but remind you to please keep it fun and respectful. Please also remember that here at AP Studios, you do have a voice, and we want to hear from you. Shoot us an email or comment in the chat if you would like to jump in the sandbox with our incredible panel. Now, without further ado, join me in welcoming your host, the man of the people, the oracle of Nikon, and the M&M slayer of the Midwest, George.
All right. Thank you, Joe Man's Land, for that. I love it. All right. So we got a few people in here already. J-Rod Photo Art, Rakesh, Ray Powell from Berwick upon Tweed. As you know, I love that, Ray. Manila Martin, Russell Van Krayenberg. Okay. Hello. First time seeing you here, sir. Welcome. ATR Bear, Mr. Ted, down on the island. All right. So, J-Rod's already asked. You might have noticed that we have Mr. Simon.
Simon's hiding now. He's running away.
Sorry, no, I just had to
ordinary filmmaker in here. And Mr. Jeffrey's back after his trip up north. He's back. So welcome, Chris from Maryland, Luis, Chris Street. All right, you were waiting for this one. All right, you know what? We're still building the audience here. We've got 24 people in here already, and I appreciate that. But J-Rod asked this question, and Simon's here, so let's just tackle this for just a few minutes. Let's talk about. And I'm not here to pick on Canon or Sony, or I'll pick on Nikon because I shoot Nikon, so I can. But the R100 is a mystery, and Simon's a bit perplexed. So. Simon, what about this R100?
I think 6K over sample 4K is terrific. I think 15 frames per second is really good. I like some of the computational capabilities in this camera. I think it really hits the stills and video capabilities quite well. And in terms of the resolution of the LCD, the flippy screen, I think that the R50 is one of the best cameras out there at $679. And then this morning we got the R100. And I was confused. I thought, well, okay, so for $200 more, we got the R50, which I think for its price point is a very solid camera, right up there with the Sony ZV-E10. For a lot of those capabilities I talked about, I think it's a terrific camera. It really, really is. But the R100 is, as a friend of mine said, and they're my words now, the R100, the best way to understand it is it's the Canon EOS M50 Mark II, which is more or less the M50, which came out in 2018. Early 2018, it had the Digic 8 image processor. Canon has brought back not only the Digic 8 image processor, but 1.55 times cropped 4K on a 1.6 crop sensor. And if you use digital image stabilization, you get an additional crop. So you can turn a 100 to 500 millimeter for no cost into like a 300 to 1500 millimeter. It's I'm having trouble understanding it. You know, I can look at the R50 and truly say that if I want to go on vacation, didn't want to take my R5, I'd be quite happy with the results that the camera would produce. I think it's a really, really good camera. I can look at the GH6, and despite having a contrast detect autofocus system, I can see its capabilities at salient points and how powerful it is. But the R100 being more or less just a rebadged M50, I'm a bit at a loss. And I understand some people said to me, yes, but in other parts of the world, like in Africa or other parts of Europe, the exchange rate really plays in, and it does. And so it's marketed to them. But then I say, well, no, because in a lot of those areas, especially Africa, where a lot of people don't have computers and their smartphone is everything, their smartphones, they'd rather spend more money on a smartphone and have more capable video and stills capabilities. 3.5 to 6.5 frames per second stills. I
mean, this is just going back to the basically not point and shoot, but the compact, you know, in Nikon speak, the D3000 series, you know, camera. And I don't know how well that would go across with Nikon fans right now. Well, different group of folks though, because considering where Nikon is and, filling out the lineup and where Canon is, I mean, Canon's done a stupendous job, man. Yeah. It's been fantastic. And this is just a kind of a shocker, this camera. And it's not that it's priced so low that you just can't pass it up to get one to throw in the car in case you ever need a camera kind of thing. I mean, it's still, almost $500 and $200 more, as you said, Simon, and you can have a much different camera, a much better camera. So what do you think what was their strategy here?
I don't know. I'm usually very good at understanding things. And as you say, like I look at the R50 and I think it's a great camera. The R8, I think it's a very good camera. I think the R6 Mark II is very good. The R5, the R3, I don't understand as much, but I understand who it's meant for. And I can understand from that viewpoint for that market niche. Yes, the R3 makes a lot of sense. But this here, it kind of takes me back to 2018 when I was looking at the Canon 80D and I thought like, there's not much here. Looking at a lot of the cameras that I was ready to move over to Sony, I was ready to move over to Panasonic. I didn't understand it. So I'm not sure what they're doing. I mean, we were all familiar with buying cars and we'll see something in the paper, something too good to be true. You can get this car for $120 a month or $120 a week, $200 a month. And we're thinking, there's no way. You go into the store, there's no air conditioning, there's no heating. You've got seats that don't move. You've got a car that nobody wants to buy. So what do? They bring you into the store and they say, hey, look at this. It's only $200 more. That's what makes sense to me. I don't know. And, if you look at everybody, even Canon Rumors, they tweeted out today and they're saying, oh, look, oh, good. Canon brought back the Digic 8 image processor and cropped video. And all my comments, I don't normally like to do negative pieces. I feel like it's a negative piece, but I'm really just trying to push people to the R50. And, 96% approval rating, almost 95% people agree with me. It's like they don't understand. And if your market doesn't understand the camera, then you've got a problem. And even their promotional video, it lacked the usual excitement and salient features. You don't see it's got this throughout the video. It's just they talk about a few things and that's it. Yeah, and J-Rod said, and somebody else said the same thing. Did they just have a whole bunch of spare parts available? I don't know. I would have put the Digic X in there. And you know what I would have done too? I would have said, okay, you know what? If we're going to really cripple 4K, let's not put it in there. Let's drop the price even further. And we'll do 6K over sample 1080. We'll really focus on having really good 1080. We'll make this camera $299. We'll give them 7 frames per second stills with autofocus and auto exposure. And with the Digic X image processor being in every single camera, the economies of scale would probably allow that. And unlike the M50, it doesn't even have a flippy screen. So what do you think, Chuck?
I don't know. This may actually, Mr. Peter Gregg's joining us. How you doing, Peter?
My mentor.
So this may actually appeal to an audience globally because we talk about this all the time as well. When we start talking about affordable cameras in the U.S., that is not necessarily affordable globally. There are a lot of places that what we consider affordable is still very pricey. So maybe that's it too. I don't know. Maybe there's a market for it, Simon, and some of the other locations around the world. I don't know. I don't have an answer for it. But of course, it's going to get a lot of jeering from the U.S. and probably the UK audience, no doubt about it. But then again, maybe $200 is a lot of money in some locations. I don't know. I'm just trying to explain it. I
want to say this to anybody who's considering it. Do a roadmap, because I think if you buy the R100, you'll find that very quickly you'll outgrow it. I would seriously consider how long would it take you to save up that extra $200, and then look at how much longer you could have that camera before you outgrow it. But you know what? There's a person in the room here. I know him well. He's got decades of experience as a photographer, wedding event photography. He's bought Nikon's flagship series, Canon flagship series. He's got all the cameras. And I'm really curious to know what your guest, Peter Gregg, has to think about this camera, because maybe I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and maybe I'm just missing something here.
I think you are the smartest guy in the room.
You're
wait,
the
I got my cameras revolving. I need.
That's a nice shot, Peter. I like that actually. Yeah.
It's my right side.
His bright side.
Hey,
My
folks,
bright side.
we're
They
going to
always
get
say
to
you should only have the camera on your good side, but you must have all good sides. So I think you're.
we're going to get to the RAW versus JPEG here in just a minute, but this is just kind of, it jumped out this morning. Simon said he wanted to join the stream today, but so we just want to have a short conversation here about this. And yes, it is Z8 Eve. We're not going to talk about that right away, but I'm sure everybody's going to want to talk about it here towards the end of the stream. And we'll readdress all this gear stuff that so many people don't like. I love it, but I understand so many others don't. So anyway, well, let's get Peter's take on the R100, and then we'll move into the JPEG versus RAW. And I'm sure I can make a lot of people mad with my thoughts. Go ahead, Peter.
I think the R100 is actually a good insertion into the market, because what I've been seeing the last week or so has been irritating me to no end. And I get agitated, and then I come in here and then I sound like I'm arguing with everybody when I'm really not. Okay. So the Sony, what was that? SV1 Mark II.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I got the SV1 right here. So it's not like I can't open my mouth and say something about it. I own the camera. Okay. So this is the SV1 Mark II. I'm sorry. This is the SV1, not the Mark II. Okay. It does turn on. Okay.
Yeah.
Then they came out with the V10. And these are aimed from the marketing division is driving. It's not camera makers that's driving here, okay?
Yeah.
And we got on the screen 4 guys that are all camera people. So we are really not included in the conversation with why they came out with these. But what my major problem is, and the only positive to the R100 is these cameras are all dead ends. If you get involved, you can't improve. You can't add.
Right.
You can't change. It's a dead end. You're going to buy it, and you're going to be satisfied until you're 100 years old. Okay.
Yeah. You were talking about that earlier, Simon, talking about that very point is there's nowhere to climb.
Same with the V10, dead end.
Yeah.
R100, the only good thing I could say about it is it's not a dead end. Okay. So that is the only good part about it. You want to change your lens? Well, good Lord Almighty, you can change your lens. You want to take out the battery? You could do that. All right. Do you want to take a good picture? I'm not so sure. Okay. It's or a good video. It's so crippled. It's a joke. But you know something? We are not Canon. If we were in a meeting and we were Canon, we might very well put out an R100. So what I'm trying to say is I'm restraining myself, other than to say if you actually buy it, you've got a way to wiggle your way up in your growing curve. And I hope there is a growing curve, because what Canon is saying to us is to buy a camera and be content for 10, 15 years. You don't need to grow. This is a Sony, by the way. I'm not that dumb. Okay. And that's what they're telling us.
Well, and that's what
I don't like that.
Is this targeted to, and I hate to say it this way, but we've used this term so much, and it applied, a few years ago. Now I'm afraid I might say something wrong, but is this the soccer mom camera?
It could be, but it could also be the camera where, hey, Chuck, how are you doing? I'm your buddy. I've been your buddy for years. Can I borrow your camera this weekend? I'm going to a wedding, and I know you've got some really nice cameras. Can I please borrow your camera? We've known each other for 20 years.
Yeah.
What are you going to say? You're going to
sorry,
say...
I've got it open. I'm doing a cleaning, and I'm
But-
missing a part, so I
but
got to
here,
wait for
take
it
my
to show up.
Z30.
I have to hand you this classic piece of work.
Yeah,
Here's my R100, or here is my ZV1 Mark II, or my V10.
or
Have
Z30.
at it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
is the Z30 a bad camera too? I kind of lost track
No,
of that one.
it's not. But listening to Grace Westminster this morning, even Becky talked about that. You know, the Z30 hasn't been a monstrous hit in UK or in Europe as far as she can see. And she kind of threw in there, maybe we don't have as many vloggers.
I think vlogging is a dead term. I think when you say vlogging, I think of walk and talk. I have hardly seen any walk and talk videos. It's people telling stories now. That is the new definition of vlogging.
Yeah.
But they're making it sound like, oh, take this camera with you and show me everything you're doing. Tell me when you're having breakfast and tell me when you're having lunch. That's not reality anymore. I don't think any of the four of us do that. Okay.
And I think that there are so many cameras out there that are capable of doing that. And that was part of what Simon was talking about this morning on his video. It's one of those things where there are so many other options. How could, you know, if this thing had come in at $299, which is a ridiculous price, I know, but then
that ain't going to happen.
Well, no, I understand that. But, you know, people probably would have said, yeah, I'll pick one up just for whatever. But
So let Chuck borrow it. When you want to borrow my
exactly.
camera, I got one here you could borrow, and it's a Peter Gregg camera.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so it's got to be good.
Yeah, Chuck's going to be sitting there like this. Gee, do I give him the Z8 or do I give him that camera? Oh, let me think. That's a hard decision. Which one do I give him?
The V10 here. This is a vlogging camera. This is my V10. You could borrow that.
Now, let me make this statement too. Because Canon, Nikon, Sony have been on the higher end for the last couple of years, and we have to admit there's some stellar cameras that have come out of all three camps on the higher end. And I won't say they've neglected. Sony's done better than anybody of providing, you know, a bajillion cameras out there for people to choose from. I don't know how they choose, actually. I'm not picking on Sony. I mean, at least you have a bajillion cameras to offer to people. And Canon's done so well with their offerings. Is it just payback now? The manufacturers are saying we got to do something for those that can't afford these high-end cameras. I don't know. I'm just trying to find some, you know, something
I
reasonable.
think the point and shoot market is dying, and the cell phone is killing it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they have come up with a good retort. So the V10 is actually not an unnice camera, but why can't I make a phone call with it? I can make a phone call in my Tesla, and it's a car.
Yeah.
I mean, 30 years ago, would you have made a phone call in your car, Chuck? I mean, no. But now it's normal. But can I make a phone call on my camera? No. It sounds stupid, okay? But just hear me out. But the camera, I mean, the phone company is doing that to us in reverse. Here, we'll give you 3 cameras in one little body, which I don't even have my phones with me, okay? We'll put 3 cameras in it, okay? And you can make phone calls. You could text. You could play games. Well, what are you doing over here, Sony? What are you doing, Canon? Okay, you've boxed yourself into a thinking box, and now you're marketing to the people that have got the camera, the iPhones. You got a phone, Chuck? You got, when you go out, you take your phone with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we've been talking about that for a while too. The bottom line is, yes,
it's not new. It's old.
Cell phones or smartphones or whatever you want to call them, your mobile phone is very capable of photos and you know, different situations. It works extremely well. And the bottom line is you have it with you everywhere you go. So a photo, no matter how bad it is, of something that's important to you is still a good photo. It doesn't matter what you're shooting it with. I get that as well. But are camera manufacturers then just beating their head against the wall trying to recover some of that point and shoot market? Is that, I mean,
is that your question, or is your question better stated? Can they recover?
Well, you know, let's look at, can they recover that portion of the market?
What's Canon's a claim to fame lately in terms of cameras is dual pixel autofocus.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the one feature missing out of all these lower priced cameras that Canon, let's pick on Canon, okay? This is for me to pick on Canon day for this 20 minutes, all right? What's the one feature missing from all their new cameras? The low end price. Their number one strength, dual pixel autofocus. Not in the V10, not in the R100. It drops out on here, it drops out over there. And is the cell phones doing the same thing? My Samsung cell phone's got dual pixel autofocus. I don't know how that happened, but they're claiming it. Okay. So, was it something I said, Chuck, and you left? I apologize.
No. Keep going. Starting a poll over here.
I don't know. I'm talking,
Peter.
and Simon gets up and runs out, and now I'm talking, and Chuck goes and hides. Jeffrey, what you gonna do? Hi, Jeff. Nice to meet you.
No, I'm not running away. I'm just half asleep because I had to get up at like 4 this morning to catch an airplane. So, I mean, I'm...
Well, no offense to Chuck, but I wanted to talk to Simon, and I can't get through him on the phone. So I figured I better come on here so I can say, hey, Simon, congratulations. You crossed the 40,000 subscriber mark. That's a big, big thing, dude, you know?
It is, and I want to. I was almost able to share that experience with Chuck on my Z8 live stream last Wednesday. It was
You needed 4, right? You needed 4 more?
It took me like 3 days to get there.
That is the beauty of YouTube. They know you're about to cross. I'll get right up to, $2.99 and stay at $2.99 for 2 weeks before all of a sudden I'm at $3.05 in terms of subscribers. And they do it to us every time.
They have to take some away from you first, at least a few times.
Yeah.
To humble you, and then you eventually crawl across that.
They'll get theirs. Point. Give it time. They'll get theirs.
It was my biggest day, and thank you for those like Chuck who showed up. I got Nikon Canada showing up, and if you think Nikon isn't that big of a camera company, this live stream that I had the most ever peak concurrent viewers of 861.
It was almost
the most
1,000.
ever.
If you just looked at it and rounded it out, it was almost 1,000.
Almost 1,000. I had Nikon Canada. Nikon was on my stream, and to be able to pull a vendor like that, it was impressive. So I didn't hit 40K, but in my view, it was a successful day. It was a fun day, and we got to celebrate and welcome a terrific camera. And I'm just a little bit disappointed that Nikon didn't send me one of those Z8 caps, baseball caps.
Yeah, I'd have to drive all the way down to New York City to go to one of the little hands-on demos to get one, and wasn't worth it. I don't wear hats
the Z8.
anyway.
You can keep the cap. I want the Z8.
I bought one of those caps.
I got you to say Z8.
I did say that. I thought I said that. I couldn't believe it, and you had to say something, didn't you?
I could do that like on my Harley shirts. People ask me, "You get?" Yeah, I bought it. It was $17,500, and they threw in a motorcycle.
Well, that's what I said about this. They said, "Where'd you get that? How much did it cost?" I said, "Well, it was about $6,000 Canadian, but it did come with a free camera." Right? So, I do. I want to get merch from each of the major companies, because then when I talk on camera or talk on a video, I can wear a Canon jacket, I can wear a Nikon cap. I think I'd be. Hey, look! You just got a super chat, Chuck.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Yaman. Yeah, you're right. And I had my M&M's bag set up. I thought I had it set up so it could be seen easily, but I'm sorry. I got to get rid of this Rode mic holder here, figure out something else. But thank you so much, Yaman. You guys are always so kind. I appreciate that. And yes, it wouldn't be my stream if there weren't some M&Ms in the background and being eaten. So thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, man.
I did that for a couple of years. M&Ms, Oreo cookies. And then I got threatened by my doctor. I'm going to have to take insulin. So all that had to go by the wayside. And now I'm on what they call a low-carb diet. I have lost over 50 pounds, okay, but I am suffering terribly because I don't have M&Ms. Oreos.
Well, I understand M&M's is going to. They have a new product coming out. It is insulin infused M&M's, so that you'll be able to eat them to your heart's content.
Created by AI, right?
Yes. Oh, hey, guys, let's jump into this RAW versus JPEG piece. Where was I going with it? Okay, so I got a poll up. Do you shoot RAW or wow?
Are you
Man.
talking to? Oh wait, you got another. It is from Simon.
Thank you,
Of
Simon.
all people, holy cow!
I don't know if we're the best live stream channel around, but we definitely try to take care of the folks that are viewing in the chat and everything else, and we have a good time.
It generates money. Good.
You just got to get some better guests. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, really. You got me, Simon, Jeff. You're okay. No problem.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in good company here. Yeah, so the RAW versus JPEG thing, I said a while back, I shoot JPEG, and I don't shoot JPEG only. There are times when I shoot JPEG only because I don't need anything but JPEG. But about half and half. Sometimes I'll shoot both JPEG and RAW. I know that I get a little more data to work with for photos that I know are going to have some issues because I did something wrong. I'm never going to say the camera did it wrong. Of course, it's me. Underexposed, overexposed, and I don't know how much I can bring back. But anyway, okay, so that's me and JPEGs and RAWs. I've got a poll going over there. And you're welcome to vote. Do you shoot RAW? Do you shoot JPEG? Or do you shoot both? Because there are people that won't even shoot JPEG, I learned, which is crazy. And Heath, yes, I want to bring that up. I'm glad you said that, Simon, because I want to talk about that because I don't understand it. And I want to talk about it now that Nikon offers that in a camera body. I know that others do, but I don't know anything about it. So I want to talk about that as well. Let's see.
You're talking about pictures, right? Not video.
Yeah, just photos.
Okay, just checking. Okay.
Yeah, because I don't even go down the path of a RAW video versus.
Well, you'd have to go.
I wanted to make sure because the RAW versus JPEG argument was back in 2001, 2002. But that I love going down memory lane. So
the 5D Mark IV with motion JPEG.
Yeah, you do have that. That's right. Yeah. So. But I can't believe anybody in their right mind today would shoot JPEG. That is just so crazy.
No.
And Chuck's face didn't even change. I was expecting to see a response there.
No, I've been beat up.
His screen just froze. That's all.
Oh, is that what it was?
Froze.
Okay.
I've been beat up so many times over it, so it doesn't affect me anymore. I'm still going to do what I do.
When I was very right in the thick of my wedding career, let's say 2001 to 2004, there was a very popular forum called the DWF, Digital Wedding Forum. Okay, you had to pay like $200 or $300 a year to belong to it, and this is the transition from film to digital that we had just gone through, and then all the wedding photographers were focusing on JPEG or RAW. And let me tell you, this is like a bar brawl. I mean, I couldn't believe that people would be willing to throw a punch on something so stupid. It's like boxers or briefs. You wear what you want. Who cares? Yeah. So
you put the right tools in the bag to get the job done.
I think there's a stigma associated with JPEG. You're not a professional if you're not shooting RAW.
Well, I'm sorry. And there'd be a lot of unemployed professionals right
I'm
now.
just saying.
That shoot sports and events where they have to upload their images instantaneously. So
just like that.
They give sports shooters and photojournalists a pass. Nobody's going to argue with them because obviously they have to do it as well. Yeah. But anybody else, if you're shooting portraits and you're shooting in JPEG, you're not a professional. You're no good.
Well, let's define before we get into the fist fighting.
We've tried, but go ahead.
You can have your turn.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna put some truth on my plate. Okay, when I was shooting film, I was an awesomely wonderful, terrific photographer because I would mail the film. I shot a wedding. I would mail the film to my place of choice, Maisel or whoever it is.
Yeah.
It would go through these $300,000, $500,000 machines and give me back corrected, very well exposed pictures. When I bought a digital camera and I shot RAW, I went from being a stunningly good photographer to one that sucked. How could I take such horrible pictures? They're not finished. Someone got to get in there and finish them.
Yep.
Where is that $500,000 machine to correct all my film negatives? Okay, that's what the real difference between JPEG and RAW is in terms of skill. It shows you what you're really shooting versus a company fixing it for you, covering your butt. Okay.
Yep.
And that's where people that I could tell you that you might get an enthusiastic groom, like Simon gets married to his beautiful bride there. Okay. And he hires me because he thinks I'm a wonderful wedding photographer. So Simon knows a little bit, so he's going to say, I want the raw files. And my answer is going to be no. But I can't say no.
Well,
okay. And the reason that it's going to be no, I need to finish the sentence, is it's not a finished image. The raw file is exactly what it says. It's raw. Okay.
Yeah.
The same thing like the negatives. I never got the request that I could remember. I want the negatives for my wedding. Okay, because it's a machine that's going to finish it. So when we were having this fight, that's when the Fuji camera came in with, I forgot the number. Simon, you remember back then? Was it a Fuji 200 or something like that? And they were applying the Fuji magic in the Fuji camera, even though the camera was crappy. You were getting JPEGs for your wedding right on the spot because Fuji was fixing your lousy photography skills for you, okay, in the camera. Okay, now 2023, you take a bad picture with a RAW, you've got a bad picture. You're going to have to get into Luminar or Photo, whatever they got these days, Lightroom and stuff, and you are that $500,000 machine. Okay. So the argument when people go like RAW versus JPEG, it's basically you against the machine. Okay.
Well,
now,
I wish I was worth $500,000.
You're worth more than that. I think $6 million. They say the human body, the assets are worth over $6 million. So Jeff, you're underpricing yourself. This is what wedding photographers do.
You just need to convince others that you're worth $6 million.
I'm only worth something if I sell my organs on the open market.
Wait, the drunk photographer. Now he's making a good point. When I want to take a picture of this to sell it, do I want to go through RAW to take the picture and throw it up on eBay? Or do I just want to get a JPEG and slap it up there? Okay.
One thing I want to add to what you're saying, Peter, because I think
but I want others to talk.
RAW is, I shoot RAW and JPEG because I can. It's an option. But most of the times I'm using JPEG. For what I need, JPEG is fine. And if you only ever use JPEG, still shoot RAW and JPEG because it's going to happen to you one day and you're going to remember this conversation and you're going to have something, it's clipped, it's not so good. If you have that RAW, you have, I would say, almost a backup because you can go in, you can make adjustments. You've got more information that you can fix in post. But most of the times I will shoot JPEG or HEIF. HEIF is really great. I started using HEIF a little while ago and I took 2 shots. One of this beautiful forest with green leaves, the sky poking through a little bit, and I took a JPEG and I took a HEIF. And when I looked at it, the HEIF looked better. And as I zoomed in, I realized the reason why is because instead of gray shining through, the blue sky was shining through the trees in small amounts.
What is HEIF? Can we get a definition?
I don't know exactly I can't remember what it stands for, but it's actually 10-bit versus JPEG, which is 8-bit, and it used different algorithms. But there's something else I want to talk to people about. There's another option, And now that you've got a Nikon Z8, it's a very good option. And this is for modes where you're shooting 8K over sample 4K. You don't need to do RAW or anything like that. Just shoot 8K over sample 4K. And it's great if you've got kids. You set it to that mode, you turn the shutter up to something like about 350, 400, and you just let it record video. And then as they're moving, and they will never sit still, you're able to then scrub that video and do screen grabs.
Yep.
And
Extracting. Now, does the Z8 still extract as a JPEG, or have they given you something a little bit better?
I don't know.
Because that's what 8K is. No offense, Simon. I know Simon shoots Lehman all in 8K, and he creates a catalog of the boys' entire year, and it's all done in 8K. So, but he's unusual.
I did a grab from the Z9 shooting 8K, and it was a spectacular photo.
Was it good?
Yes, it was excellent.
Because that's where the 8K is going to come into play for a lot more people. Dogs, children, sports. Yeah. You want the ball hitting the bat? Record it in 8K, and you'll have that money shot. Second. There you go. You know, but some cameras actually shoot 30 frames per second in RAW now and record it. I mean, you know.
Here's a great comment. Russell Van Kranenberg says, I just discovered clients who want unedited JPEGs, and I'm loving the simplicity of that. Otherwise, I tend to shoot RAW. I think it's incredible. It just depends on how you're going to work with clients. I know a lot of people won't give up any files or whatever, but I'm assuming that they're asking for the JPEGs and they're going to print themselves. I don't know. I don't know what your process is there, Russell. But I do want to say this, because this brought me to the whole point of JPEG versus RAW. I understand commercial product photographers, they want the biggest, largest, most information file they can get, for doing product photography. But there are so many other folks out there, I think, are wasting time in editing and doing all that, when nowadays JPEGs are so close coming out of camera. It's a quick tweak in Lightroom and you're moving on. What does your client want? Are we doing it again back to, are we doing this just to say this is what makes us a professional, because we go to all this trouble, we edit 2,500 wedding photos that are RAWs?
Well, I think you should only use the tool that satisfies your customer. You got to know your audience. If your audience is happy with the JPEG file, you'll then why expend the energy working on a RAW file?
You'll never get anywhere in the professional world or on YouTube if you make statements like that. You're shooting for clients, because you're not. You're shooting for other photographers to critique you after the fact. That's what we shoot for. I mean, come on, let's face it.
Wait, Chuck, are you being serious or are you joking?
Well, part
a little of both.
Yeah, a little of both.
No, because in that sentence is the crux.
Yeah.
I have a reputation. I'll present this as a question to Chuck, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're over there on my screen. That's why I'm pointing that way, okay? I'm a professional photographer. I command good prices when I do my shooting. Should I give you a bad picture that I took in a RAW form? Would that be dangerous to my reputation, or do you think that is a non-issue at all?
No, that'd be very dangerous. Yes, absolutely. Okay. You can't do that. Right.
Why? Why?
Open the photo.
Finish it. Define why I can't do that.
If it's an unfinished, it's a RAW photo, unless you have a picture profile assigned to the camera, and RAW will even pick that up unless you're shooting in flat profile, which a lot of people do, of course. But the point is, well, there are two things. One, they can't open the photo, so it does no good for them to ask for RAW files unless they have a program or a processing capability themselves. Two, they can edit it any way they want and say you took the photo, but they're not going to tell everybody that they butchered the editing if they want to try that. I mean, a lot of reasons. We've covered all that too, but.
Well, where do you want to get to? It's all been covered. So what is it that is there a new territory here that we want to get into?
No, we're just recovering everything again because everybody's always asking about, do you shoot RAW? Do you shoot JPEG? I'm going to make a shirt for AP Studios. I shoot JPEG exclusively just to get a rise out of people.
Well, you're the opposite of Fro knows. He has I shoot RAW. You can say I shoot JPEG.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
But JPEG doesn't have that little sexy twist to it. I shoot RAW kind of has a little sexy twist to it,
Yeah. But there are so many people out there that will judge you if you tell them, well, I shoot JPEG and RAW, but I mostly use the JPEGs. Oh, you're not a serious photographer. You're not a real photographer, which takes me back to most photographers are shooting for other photographers instead of their clients. Their clients are happy, mind you. I get that. But they're more concerned about what Peter Gregg's going to say about their photos, or what Simon's going to say about their photos, or others are going to say about their photos, instead of just being happy with what they're doing. And can you achieve that with JPEG, or do you have to have RAW? I'm not trying to beat RAW down, but I like being controversial, as everybody knows, and you know that, Peter.
I still think I could your particular case. If you're a busy parent, male or female, doesn't matter, mom or dad, and you're taking pictures of your kid's birthday party, you're lucky you have time to read a newspaper or go on YouTube and watch a show once in a while, then you're going to say, hey, I'm going to print out some 4x6s. I'm going to put it in a photo album, or I'm just going to save all the files on a disc or whatever, and I'm going to shoot JPEG. I don't have the time for all that malarkey with a RAW file, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're not trying to sell the image. It's your own personal inventory. It's a picture of your kids. It's, for the most part, it's going to look fine to you, and you're going to say that's good enough.
I think most people are going to get a pass if they're just shooting their children or whatever. No doubt about that. I get that. But if you're shooting portraits and you're not even employed to shoot portraits, you're just doing it, then you're gonna get some criticism because you're not. If they can tell, and there's the key. Half the time you can't, or not half the time, more than half the time, you can't tell whether it was a RAW file that was edited and then posted as a JPEG or whatever.
Can I come back at you for a second, Jeff, in a nicest, sweetest, kindest way?
You can in just a second here.
Okay.
I got
rant isn't over yet.
I got Andy Miller's comment up here. Some folk have to send images immediately. They have to shoot JPEG. Yes, and we talked about that. Andy's not behind. I'm behind on the comments, so I'm just catching up here. The rest, JPEG, heat shooters are lazy or shooting at 120 frames per second. See, there you go, are lazy. Am I lazy because I won't shoot and edit RAW for everything?
I got to interject very quickly. In the business world, we don't use the word lazy, we use the word efficiency.
Or inefficiency.
Yeah.
No efficiency.
No, because that's what I was going to do in my little conversation with Jeff. Jeff is making a statement that sounds like you could preach it, brother. Okay, like, why do you need that? You're going to shoot your kids. You want to get them up on Facebook, blah blah blah, and his argument is very solid, but I don't believe it's correct. Okay, and I need to say why I don't think it's correct rather than just say it's not correct, because it's the individual's workflow that's going to dictate what you do. So back in the day, Canon came out with an S50. It was a cute little camera. It was a point and shoot when point and shoots were still hot. And I wanted to take sunsets while I was driving around, and I shot everything in RAW, okay, on that little point and shoot camera. So when I come in, an SD card, I was just looking for one, in your hand does nothing for you, okay? So the housewife that Jeff is talking about, and Jeff is correct in what he said, because it's so much easier to convince the housewife, shoot in JPEG, your pictures are ready, okay? But your pictures are ready anyway, okay? Nobody said you have to edit every picture. Just put the RAW files in, push convert and you got your JPEGs, okay? So you could actually shoot everything in the world as a RAW file. Just have your workflow prepared that you're going to empty your SD card into your computer. You're going to put it into your folder that says Lunch with Chuck on May 24th, okay? And I took all of 3 pictures because Chuck eats so fast I didn't have time to take pictures. Or Chuck is a slow eater and I took 50 pictures of me at lunch with Chuck. And then he had to have those ding-dong M&Ms at the end. So I took pictures of him doing that too. And then when he picked up the bag, it ripped open and the M&Ms went everywhere all over the floor. I took pictures of that, okay? I come back with an SD card. I put it in my computer. I put it in a folder. I open it up in my workflow. And my workflow would have been Adobe Lightroom, bring everything in, and if I just want simple JPEG, convert. Done. I don't think it would take 3 minutes, probably 2. Okay.
Does everybody out there feel like that they can't get good JPEGs and they're always getting better results with RAW? Always.
Well, for me, yes, because I need the flexibility of, I like to make some white balance adjustments, and you can do more with white balance in a RAW file than you can typically with a JPEG. So that's why I predominantly shoot RAW. But I was trying to justify, and I've done it myself, a case where I don't necessarily care whether I'm shooting RAW or not. But I do shoot predominantly. I shoot 99% RAW files. And yeah, I have my own presets that I created, and I use those, and it saves me time. And if I have to spend more than, I'd say, 60 seconds on a picture to tweak it, then I typically throw it away. That's just me.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Because, oh man, Simon's going to have to take off on us here real soon. So we got to get Simon back into the conversation before he gets out of here. We got to take all the knowledge we can get out of Simon in 12 minutes, folks. Everything we can get.
I'm listening.
You got to hook that cable up to the port on the back of his head that you don't see.
I'd like to see all of what Simon knows in 12 minutes. I think that would be an awesome show. Let's go.
All right. Here we go. It's all right here.
Hey, before you go, Simon, let's see. I'm gonna have to pass up a bunch of comments, but what's new? Hey, does anybody have any comments or questions or anything for Simon before he gets out of here? Here's your chance. You got him trapped for a few minutes, and whatever questions you have, drop them in the chat. Or if you would like to come on and you have a phone, you can click the link and come in here for just a minute and talk directly to Peter, Simon, Jeffrey. And I know you don't want to talk to me, but that's all right. I understand that because I talk so much. But yeah, either drop a comment asking Simon whatever you'd like to ask him, or make a comment before
I'd like to ask Simon a question.
By all means.
How do you get all this news before everybody else? What the heck is up with that? I mean, do you have like a secret agent somewhere, or what goes on in that house, okay, where you get the news before Canon rumors, before Andre at 4/3 rumors? I mean, Simon's got some kind of crazy connections that he just doesn't want to reveal. But now that he's on national television, I'm going to put him on the spot. Why are you better than the other politician?
He has his own AI, and he doesn't want to tell anybody.
No, it's far more boring of an answer. Now, and keep in mind, those are websites. I'm video, so I need it usually at least an hour to 2 of working, and then YouTube takes an hour to process. So I'll tell you one of 2 things. I'm old, so I usually wake up 2 or 3 times in the night to get some water, go to the bathroom, and I always check, is there something major? And if there is, I will get out of bed, quickly freshen myself up, go down and record. And that's why you'll see videos come out at like 6:30 or 7 in the morning. I will pay attention to stuff. So there's passive ways of stuff will come to me. People will tell me stuff. Sometimes just comments. I'm responding to comments. Somebody said, hey, take a look at this. I just saw something in China. So I take a look. I also have a relationship with Craig, as I have a relationship with Peter. And sometimes, you know, he'll put something out and I'll say, well, what about this, this, and this? He'll give me some other information. I go, that's an idea for a video. I'll throw out a video. But it's basically hard grunt work. I do have to confess, though, and the reason why I'm leaving in 10 minutes now, I have a day job. I'm an enterprise architect, so I work 7 hours a day, and that is my dedicated day job. So I can't do anything out in those hours. But outside of that, I'm checking feeds, I'm searching, I'm checking all the major sites, I'm checking all the major feeds. I'm talking to people. I reach out to people and Peter knows I know some people that I will talk to on a regular basis. And I also have a relationship with other sites too, like Andrea at Sony Alpha Rumors. We talk behind the scenes sometimes. I've had him on the channel. We're competitors, but we also support each other. And it's part of it is also when you're in this for a while, you start to become better at the analytics. And as one gentleman just said, hey, you are right. There are plenty of Z8s because I'm able to get certain information and be able to put it together. Sometimes I'm wrong, like last night when I predicted the R100 specs. Boy, was I wrong, and I wish I wasn't. But it's a lot of hard work, Peter. It's a lot of grunt work.
I think you have something that's an advantage to you that's built in, and that is you're closer connected to the Asian world because of certain reasons that I'll let you explain if you want.
I might be married to somebody of Asian.
Well, I didn't want to say that. I didn't want her to get on my case, so I'm letting you. So he could read stuff that we can't read, okay, even in translation. He's connected me up to use the translator. It don't work for me. So
okay, so that is 1.2. I'm not just reading English language press. I don't care what language it is. I use the quote universal translator, and if it's from China, and of course my wife speaks several Chinese languages, so I'm able to get what it actually means. But it still boils down to grunt work. I have people saying, you know, I thought I could beat you to a video, but you beat me again. And it's because, you know, I'm always checking. And even during work hours on my break, I'll like, okay, is there anything major? Do I have to record a video at lunch? Sometimes I do. Sometimes if you see it's only a 3-minute video, it's because I recorded it on my 15-minute break. I love this stuff, but I've gotten to a point where I want to make this channel a business. I would like to someday in the next 5 years retire from my day job and have this as my full-time job. I want to get some bigger guests on. I'm trying to get people like James Fox and others on that are very interesting individuals, filmmakers, and take this channel somewhere different. I don't know where yet, but I just know I love this stuff, and that's what's driving me.
You do a good job, Simon.
Thank you.
You come up with stuff that just absolutely amazes me. Somebody's saying the Manny Ortiz is here. I don't see him in here.
I don't
Where is he?
I'm scanning the chat. Yeah, absolutely.
He's not here. It's a fake Manny Ortiz. It's not a real one.
But Manny does drop by from time to time. He'll say
he's there,
and then skedaddle.
He's
Manny,
going, thanks, fellas.
Yeah, it was a good video. We all talked about it. I really appreciate it.
I've tried to get Manny on the channel too, but
that's why I brought it up. Manny,
I'm not big enough yet.
You need to. Well, Simon won't talk to me now that he's got 40,000. Okay, he's become a snob, and now I called him 3 times and he won't pick up the phone. But
I'm not going to talk to this hack.
Really, I don't have the 40,000, so
I don't care anymore.
Don't be like that, Manny. Talk.
Sorry, I should be looking this way. I'm on the wrong side.
Oh yeah, I'm facing away from you, Simon.
I've been. Manny's got an open invitation anytime he wants to join. Look, I'm not one of those people that gets starstruck. You know, shoot me now, because I think everybody is a person. And
is Manny a star? I didn't realize that.
No,
oh my God! I better change my chair and turn this way.
He is a star, absolutely. I mean, I love watching his videos. I like his creative side. That's what I love about him. But
I learned stuff from him, believe it or not.
But I've had people that will tell me, hey, you need to get so-and-so to come on. Look, I don't do interviews. So if anybody wants to come on to just do an interview, I don't do that. I want you to be part of the panel. I want you to be part of the conversation that's going on in the chat, because the people over here in the chat never get to speak to a lot of these individuals that we have an opportunity to sit down with. And that's what I want. Be yourself, enjoy it. Enjoy the chat with the folks and be a part of the conversation. That's what I like. So anyway, but Manny, I loved your video, man. It was good. I talked about a lot of people. I talked about it with a lot of people, and we're all happy. It's hard to be unbiased nowadays. It really is, but I think you did a great job in your video of being unbiased and just pointing out, things that I like when you point something out and you say, but look, here's the workaround, because not every camera is perfect or whatever.
They're not?
I just don't like people that will only point out negatives and never say, but it won't probably bother you or whatever. So anyway.
Well, Manny, the only thing I have to say to you, Manny, is you really have to tell us how you feel. I mean, this business that you hide your feelings and you don't let it out and express yourself, you've got to overcome that fear and tell us what you really think, okay? So that would be the only thing that I have to say to Manny. No, I love what you do, Manny. And I'm going to with Simon. I actually have a 1 o'clock lawyer's appointment, but they never show up on time, okay? So I'm not that worried about it.
All right.
But I'm going with Simon. But good to see you, Simon. We should talk sometime, right? Okay?
Yeah, I've been going to bed at 8 o'clock at night, Peter, to get up at 4.
Well, wait till you get to be 70, and then we'll talk, okay, about this 8 o'clock at night business. Ask Chuck. Chuck, you're older than me, right, Chuck?
No.
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 It's the M&Ms that keep him young, okay, guys? There's the secret right there. M&Ms.
Exactly.
He was just getting ready to say, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't know how to exactly respond to that. So we've got Mr. Andy Miller in the house with us too. So anybody got anything else you want to ask? Either
I'm going to say bye, gentlemen.
Peter or Simon before they get out of here. Here you go. Last chance.
Last chance. I got 3 minutes left.
I was
going to say.
Quick question. What do you use to edit your videos with? What software do you use?
Final Cut Pro.
Now, have you bought a lot of add-on stuff that goes with that, or just using it straight out of the box?
I try to use it straight out of the box because I find that most add-ons really slow things down. But there is one I use from Motion VFX for all my my 1/3. I build them myself. So when I'm listing specifications, I find that Motion VFX is perfect for that. They're simple enough, and I can control the flow of information. So that's what I mostly use. But otherwise, Final Cut Pro. For my non-YouTube stuff, I don't use any plugins.
Thank you.
Got room for one more or two more. I'm trying to be concise.
I don't see anything else. Man.
How's Liam doing?
He's tall. He's almost as tall as his mother. He's just turned 9 and he's almost 5 foot tall.
And what camera does Liam shoot with over there, Mr. Simon? An 8-year-old boy. I'm sure you gave him a low-level camera to use when he makes his Planet Liam videos. Would he have any reason to shoot 8K, you think?
Well, I have let him use the R5, and I thought it'd be a neat gimmick to shoot 8K. No, it's mine. I will set it up. He gets to use a 70D, but I said, look, if you want to be serious and do this regularly, we can do your whole channel in 8K just because. And it's fun.
8 years old.
Yeah, 9
to be 8
now.
years 9. Happy birthday, Liam.
Well, on that note, guys, I do want to say thank you very much for having me on your show. Chuck, Jeffrey, Peter, and I believe this is Andy in the bottom corner. So
nice to meet you, Andy, by the way. I didn't mean to ignore you.
Hi, guys. And thank you, Simon and Peter. I love your videos and the coverage. And the Z8, I have to say Z, of course. The Z8 to launch
the right way to say it.
Fantastic coverage.
Yeah, no, well, I appreciate that, Andy. And from somebody who believe it or not, I'm British. I've just been living over here for 30 years. But yeah, I fantastic camera. I'm really excited by the Z8, and I'd love to get my mitts on it soon.
I was just going to say, we won't hold that against either of you being British.
Thank you.
I commented yesterday when Vahography tried an accent.
So right. Wasn't very good, was it?
It wasn't. It was
no. Right.
Because we all talk like Guy Ritchie.
Well, yeah.
I could talk to you guys in Greek if you want, but nobody would understand me.
I can do a west of London, but that's kind of it. But that's where we're from.
Being the only one in here that doesn't have an accent, I guess I could rate you guys.
But listen,
yeah, Chuck has no accent, right? Being the only guy in here that has no accent.
I listen to myself and I can't hear it.
I gotta fly, gotta go, got things to do, and no, that's not so British. No, that is. I gotta go because I do have work, and this is recorded so they can see if I'm not done on time. So you don't want to create problems with your day job. You don't even want them to think that maybe, even though I'm going to be working late tonight in meetings after hours, you don't want them to think that you're stealing work time. So on that note, I must leave. Thank you, Chuck, once again for having me on your channel. Peter, it's always great to see you, a mentor of mine who helped get me started. And for everybody else, thank you for watching. And look at that. I'm going to leave while you get to introduce another super chat. Have a good day, gentlemen.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Simon, for jumping in. You're welcome anytime as well. Peter, you got to take off. You're welcome anytime. I don't always look, just because I don't send a link doesn't mean people can't, shoot me an email and say, hey, I'd like to join today.
I saw it right there.
Okay.
I saw it. Just like I'm looking at a super chat right now from the United States.
Okay. Oh man, got Yaman in the house. Hang on, Yaman. Let me drop Mr. Longrider. Thank you so much, Jeff, for the super chat, man. These things humble me. I don't know how, if anybody else gets super chats, how do you handle it? Because it does humble me that people would actually, give a quarter or two to the channel. So I do appreciate it so much. I got to get Longrider in here in one of these panels one of these days. I think he's got a lot to say. I want to hear it. And so does everybody else. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Bye, guys.
Have a good
show. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Chuck, you got to put Nancy's comment up because you obviously rate higher than NASA.
Uh-oh. Where's Nat? Is this
second one down or third one? She's near the top. No, not that one. You got to go more current.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down from the latest.
Here we go. My choice today was AP Studios or a lunch and learn on the Space Launch System avionics. As you can see, I'm here. Nancy, thank you. Thank you. We're all honored that you're in here. We appreciate you being in here, but thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And one of these days, we're going to get you on here. So don't say you've got a Southern accent because I'll not notice it. And that's all that matters. All right, Yaman. You've been on here before, I think, a while back, though. It's so good to see you. Let me ask first, how are the studies going? I know that's your priority right now.
Absolutely. So I'm actually just taking a bit of time, and I'm going back to the books in a few minutes. So, yeah, good to see you, Chuck. Hi, Andy. Hi, Jeff. Great to see you guys.
Great to see you. For first time I've seen you, so that's great.
Where are you from, Yaman?
Absolutely. I'm originally from Lebanon, but I live in the UAE.
So you're in Abu Dhabi or Dubai?
Dubai, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I spent 8 years there.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Until COVID. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Very nice.
Do you miss the heat?
No. This time of year, it's beautiful. Come on. It's only 150 degrees centigrade.
I'll exchange places with you anytime.
I love heat. People ask all the time. Here's my theory on heat and cold, or hot and cold. You can wipe off sweat, but you can't wipe off cold. I hate the cold.
I have a counter argument, man. You can always wear tons of stuff on top of you. I'll invite you here. I'll buy you a ticket in August. If you can stand outside for 10 minutes, I'll eat my words, Chuck.
Yeah, well, I've been over there. I spent so much time in Southwest Asia. So, yeah, I think the hottest place in the world, is, I don't know, Kenya and Mombasa. I mean, the road melts, literally. The asphalt
Wow.
road melts during the day. So I don't know if it's the hottest, but anyway, yeah, I'm a fan of heat. That's why I went to work in Southwest Asia rather than somewhere in Europe where water is cold and I don't like being cold.
Then you have an open invite anytime, Chuck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just let me
Thank
know.
you. I appreciate that.
So I just have a couple of minutes and then I need to go back to my studies. I just wanted to share a story about today's topic of RAW
Please.
versus JPEG and a perspective as well, being, somebody who wears eyeglasses. Yep. So back in 2011, it was my first professional camera, the 5D Mark II. And I take this trip during the summer, speaking of the heat, to go to an area called the Fossil Rock here on the border of the Emirate of Sharjah. So it was steaming hot outside. It was about 120, if I'm not mistaken, very humid. And, I take my camera. I'm really happy with this new purchase. I have the 16 to 35, 2.8, great combination for landscapes. And then I go and take pictures. I'm looking just at, the meter and the viewfinder and whatnot. And then I want to take a look at how my photos are coming up because it looks underexposed from the meter. But then as I crank it up, I'm worried because it's too sunny that I will lose some details. So you can imagine on the back of an LCD from back when, and I'm looking at the pictures, and initially they looked extremely bright and overexposed, although the meter was showing me correct reading of a balanced photo.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't look at my histogram, my fault totally. So I underexposed by, I think, 2 stops to compensate. Now, when I got back home, I found that I had unusable JPEG files because they were extremely dark. Yeah, and this is where my perspective on somebody who's like visually somewhat impaired, my eyes have a trouble adjusting between extreme bright sunlight and the shade, the light between the two. So it takes me at least half an hour to adjust. So, I was trying to take sneak peeks inside my car and then going back again. It didn't work out. So the photos turned out to be a disaster. And I was really upset because I spent a day, and you can imagine this burning heat. And I took what I believe were some of the best shots I had until then, and they were all ruined. Now the magic of RAW comes in, and this is why I always have the case for RAW. Just a slider, I changed my exposure, and guess what? The photos are as usable as they can be.
Good. All right, you make a good case, Yaman.
Yeah. And this is something that has to do with somewhat of a disability that I have. I cannot control how my eyes perceive light when there's a lot of contrast and whatnot.
No.
So, sorry.
I have a friend that has that light sensitivity thing with his eyes, and he's constantly battling that as well.
Absolutely. So there's only so much I can do with it. So if you ask me about my preference, it's JPEG all along the way. And, there are people who tell you, oh, you're lazy, you just want your file ready and whatnot. Crap. I don't believe in any of that. I like to get my files right in camera because I don't want to spend time behind the screen. I have better things to do. I don't do this for a living. I do it for fun. So I don't want to spend hours behind my screen, right?
Yeah.
So I try to get my JPEGs right. But then if my surroundings and circumstances are not in my favor, I always have something to fall back into.
Yeah. You've got a safety net there with the RAW files, and like I said, I don't always shoot both JPEG and RAW, but there are times when I will shoot JPEG and RAW. It gives me a backup, but I never thought of it as a backup for a bad exposure or whatever. Although I think I did mention that obviously you can recover some bad exposure issues that you may have, and you just explained it very well. I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to RAW. I'm just saying, I get tired of the people that say you're not a pro if you don't shoot RAW. But anyway,
absolutely. And I want to demystify another thing. Since you mentioned that the crap that goes around that you cannot edit JPEG and it's all crap, that's very untrue. If you got your settings right, you do have some leeway in JPEG files.
Yes.
And I'll tell you the name of a freeware that I used to use before I started using RAW in the first place. It's called View. It's a freeware. It's kind of Photoshop for dummies. It doesn't require any skills at all. It's very visual, and you drag some pointers. And if you have a good image, you set up your image well within the camera, and you took your JPEG, you can recover a lot of stuff. I mean, definitely not to the extent of a RAW file. So this is, again, just something that's overplayed. The one thing I just want to say, if you get your settings right in camera, you do have some leeway with JPEG files. Obviously not as much as in RAW. You have much more leeway to work with, but that's just that. So I just wanted to drop these 2 cents on the topic, and I bid you farewell, gentlemen. I'll see you again next time. I have to go back to my studies now.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me. Likewise.
No, absolutely. Yaman, hey, thanks for being in here. Appreciate you dropping in for a minute. You know you're welcome anytime, too.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Chuck. You have a great show.
Sir.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So how is everybody?
We are...
well, I think you two guys are going to be very happy tomorrow. I think
we'll see. Tomorrow or the next day. When Becky said Nikon they've sold out of Z8s, I think she was reporting a store or Nikon Japan. I think that was what she's saying. I don't know how many she's got, but I'm getting mine, I hope, tomorrow. So do you want to go back to my nice little comment about JPEG shooters being lazy?
Yeah.
What I really wrote and had to cut down was
No. You called me lazy.
I didn't call you lazy. What I wrote originally was lazy or just don't have the time.
Okay.
And it is that last thing. I got no issues with anybody shooting anything. I'd just like them to take photos.
Mm-hmm.
Please take photos.
I agree.
Right? And I used to shoot RAW and JPEG. And all I ended up doing was throwing the JPEGs away. It was a waste of time for me and bad discipline for me to have cards full of... Sorry.
That's
cards,
Becky confirming your order.
It might be the people with my car, but anyway. It's no, my order's confirmed. It's the delivery now.
Okay.
So all I ended up doing was filling the camera and the hard drives with files I just don't use.
Yeah.
When I started, I had the D70, 2005, something like that, in the US. And maybe I had a predecessor, but I don't remember what it was. It wasn't the D100. And we all bought the baby Photoshop something, Elements.
Photoshop Elements. Yeah.
That's where a lot of us absolute amateurs went, and we've rather quickly found out that you could do more with a RAW file than you could do with a JPEG back then. Right? Of course, now I agree with you. The JPEGs that come out of this thing, this is the Hasselblad, are stupid. And the JPEGs that come out of this thing are equally stupid, right? They are really good JPEGs. I have no idea what a HIFI is either, and I have no plans to use it. But so for
what kind of support is that? You have no plans to use it. Then how are you going to talk bad about it if you don't use it?
Same reason as I don't shoot JPEGs anymore because I've set aside the time to process the RAW files.
Okay. All right.
My process, I import the RAW files. 90% is applied on import for my startup. Basically.
Okay.
I've got presets, and it automatically does masking. That's right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I then say, right, of the 20,000 images I took in Kenya, I've got 3,000 I'm going to process properly. I then go through a whole layer further than that of processing those images. But for me, the basic import with a RAW file is what, like Jeff said, you've got the opportunity as a wildlife shooter shoot in all different environments. And the one thing you don't control is the light. That's not up to you. The animal's over there. It's in the dark. It's in the light. You want to be able to recover those shadows and get those tones right.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm debating what to do with the second slot on the Z8. Leave it empty or put a card in it. It's equally pointless for me to put a slow card in there.
Yeah. You know what? I will have a card in there just for, because it doesn't eat anything. It doesn't cost anything other than, putting it in the slot. I'll have a card in there because it doesn't take away from if you're only shooting to the CF Express B card. So, yeah, you never know. I mean, there may be a reason to have it at one point, but I won't use it. I'm not saying I'm going to use it regularly or for anything, but maybe it's a good, take a few JPEGs for somebody and then hand them the card, that they want the photos or whatever. That would be easy enough to do.
So the parallel to this is in video shooting. So, I took 8 terabytes of NRAW, 8.3K, 60p Insanity because it was Kenya and a lot of it's really boring and a little bit's out of focus. I could have taken the whole lot in some other codecs, which is the equivalent of a JPEG codec, as far as I'm concerned, 265, 10-bit or 8-bit, whatever. Could have done that. But I'm now back home trying to work out what to do with these files. You've got to learn in DaVinci Resolve. You've got to learn about Nlog. You've got to learn about all this stuff.
Yes.
Now, if you're a retired fella like me, you got lots of time. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you're a working person like Simon and you other guys, you're going to shoot in the codecs that's the quickest and easiest for you to get your product out.
Yep.
And that's a little bit like the JPEG RAW debate. The product from JPEG is usable very quickly and you almost have to do nothing with it. You can even do skin softening in the Z8. You can't do that on your RAW files.
That's the only reason I'm buying it, Andy. The only reason I'm getting it is for that.
You mean we're not supposed to bounce the micro contrast on you young fellas with wrinkles as opposed to these less young fellas who are around have no wrinkles? Right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing for me with JPEG is think of the market. There's a whole bunch of people who can't be bothered, won't spend the time, don't need to, just want to take photos and post them. Great. JPEG is perfect.
Yeah.
There's an intermediary, which is Photoshop Elements, which will give you a little bit more latitude. Relatively easy to learn. You've got to want to learn it. And then there's the tools that we're all using, which are crazy. And I'm sure, Jeff, you love spending 5 days on one photo to just get that micro toning, and you're using frequency separation and all of this crud, right? I spend 5 minutes tops.
Yeah.
Right. Unless there's something really bad, tops. Right? There'd have to be something really special in that image, and something else is really bad. And that's really, for me, I now have a process that effectively makes a RAW file like a JPEG on import. In other words, it's there and ready to go if I want it to. 90%, I just crop it and I could just go straight there. Obviously, we can do more. And with a JPEG, okay. I agree with you, Yaman. You can do more now than we used to be able to do, even though I think the codex is the same. The cameras are smarter. They do more in camera. But the whole debate for me is, you said you're not a pro if you don't shoot RAW. Well, I shoot RAW and I'm not a pro. So isn't that what we used to call an oxymoron?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm just parroting what others have told me.
I'm agreeing with you.
I was on a phone call for about an hour and a half one night with somebody that was just absolutely trying to convince me that I had to shoot RAW, which made me, more defensive about, no, I'm not going to shoot RAW now. I'm going to defy you and shoot JPEG. I mean, it was ridiculous. I think a lot of people are caught up in that whole thing. And I understand there is a place for RAW. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely there is. And if I'm shooting black and white in camera, absolutely I'm shooting RAW. So I have that flexibility afterwards. But yeah, I'm just trying to be controversial this morning or this afternoon. A topic that needs to be discussed from time to time, just so everybody can see the other side's point of view.
Well, I was being the petulant child in my remarks.
Well, no, but I like that.
Oh, that's a painful word.
Yeah, I branded Chuck with it, so there you go.
I never take anything you say, Andy. I take offense to anything you say. I mean, I need that. I need people that will, call me out. That's what keeps us humble. That's what keeps us, good. At least good on the outside if we can accept some criticism, and I do. So I do appreciate it.
So can I say I joined Verhoeven's live feed with a certain lady and gentleman one of whom used to work for DPTV, and I took the opportunity just to put the bite on Verhoeven as he was trying his accents, and it didn't work. But I am encouraged by those guys and the guys over at DP forums in particular, and I really hope they continue, because the successes to it are the worst of what DP Review was able to manage down, as in they banned people, they moderated people out, and this insanity of having a personally attacking people because you don't agree with what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's just why? It's kind of, I feel strong today because I've attacked somebody I don't know online.
Yeah.
So and this is the whole debate with cameras, right? This is a stupidly expensive camera. Why do I have it? Because I wanted it. I can shoot what I like with it.
Yeah.
I get irritated with it. I've covered the badge up, by the way, but you can see an H on the front. You can. Why do I have it? Because I want it. I shoot RAW because it's easier for me, right? But I'm not going to have an argument with somebody who wants to shoot JPEG or HEIF about it. It's pointless, right?
Yeah. But it is. You're absolutely right. And it's okay to voice your opinion and things like that. But I agree. I'm not going to try to convince anybody to do what I do or think the way I think. If you accept me the way I am, then I'll accept you the way you are, whatever it is you do or whatever. That's okay.
Life's too short.
I do want to say, man, you're looking awful dapper today, Andy, with that button-up collared shirt on.
Well, I thought I'd dress up, and I don't have my Harley gear. And actually, it would be a BSA gear because I lived on the Isle of Man, and we do have some motorcycles over here.
That is
actually called racing bikes, and they're not things like couches with wheels.
No,
you have some old Triumphs laying around too, right?
Yeah,
you got some Triumphs.
The Isle of Man, I love watching that. The TT at Isle of Man, that is amazing, man.
You just watch our Mr. Martin, who's broken everything in his body. When he came off at 180 miles an hour and hit a stone wall, things break.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, Mr. Jeff Slutter just joined us. Jeff, how you doing today?
Hey guys, good. How are you?
I'm good, except for it's time for me to go into the little boys' room. So I figured right now where there's a lull in fire, that's what we say in the Army. You can reload right now because the enemy's not advancing. And not that there's an enemy out here. But anyway, Tim just joined us as well. John Hughes, I've seen you in here. I saw you in here earlier. I haven't mentioned everybody's name, Craig C. I like to do that because, I think people want to hear their name. Name on the chat or on live.
Valuable participants in the show.
I can't think right now because I got too much water building up in my eyes, so I got to go. All right, I will be right back, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. And if you would please drop a like. We've had quite a few people in here. I'm not asking for your subscription. If you want to do that, that's great. But I'm not here to be the 1 million+ subscriber YouTube channel. But I do appreciate the likes because it just lets me know that people do appreciate the content and we're having a good time. So if you would drop a like, and I will be right back. On you now, Jeffrey.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna misdirect everybody here. I'm gonna mess up your whole show while you're gone, so you better make it quick.
Yeah, let's talk about something completely off topic.
I've got a. Well, I guess I'm going to make a statement or a comment and then see how everybody reacts to it. I'm a techie nut. I was an engineer for a long time, and when the Z8 was prior to the Z8 coming out, obviously we've all been talking about it in one way, shape, or form for years, basically. And then when you knew as soon as it got released that you were going to get hundreds of videos that were going to come out from everybody that have probably been done for like a month just waiting in the queue to come out. And like everybody else, I've probably watched most of them. and gotten a nice headache from it all. But I guess I want an opinion on the obviously big discussions and different opinions on the quote unquote, if you want to call it, the overheating issue, the buffering, things like that. I'm not overly concerned with it at all because I'm never going to shoot anything to the extreme levels where I'm ever going to have to worry about it. But there still seems to be two varying opinions where people are choosing a side, let's say. But all that discussion, do you feel that it's, to me, it's just kind of like arming people who, you know, some groups that want to just beat up on brands. Some people are brand beaters, and it doesn't matter, you know, with Nikon people beating on Sony or Sony people beating on Nikon or Canon beating on Nikon, whatever. But how does this do anybody any good? I mean, I would think that it's just gonna create a situation where some people that maybe can't read between or look through the smoke screen or the smoke or whatever and figure out what's real and what's imagined. I mean, isn't this just hurting the product?
Yeah, I guess where I would come across on that is if you really need to film for an hour and a half, you know, you're filming a piano recital or something like that, you really need to film an hour and a half. It's good to know that the thing's going to overheat at some point. But with my video, if I shoot a 15-minute video, that's a long time. Most of the videos I put on YouTube are splices of smaller segments. You know, I do wildlife. It's a bird hopping around in the tree, or a snake crawling across the ground, or tadpoles swimming under the, you know, whatever. So totally irrelevant to my photography. And the camera that I shoot has about a 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds buffer before it starts slowing down. At 30 frames a second, that's 60 shots. And you know, I grew up shooting film where you had to click, cock, click, cock, click, cock. So, yeah, I just think it's amazing that I can shoot 15, 20, 30 frames a second, even if it's for a few seconds. So, you know, that's not relevant to my shooting either. But I mean, if you're a sports photographer and you focus on the pitcher and you press the shutter down and you hold it all the way through till the guy hits the bat and takes the first couple of steps, maybe that's important. But I think for most of us, it probably is just noise in the system. It's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. If I shoot, there's an upper limit to how much I can shoot video. There's an upper limit to how many frames I can shoot before I hit a buffer. Okay, good to know. Move on. That's kind of the way I look at it.
So I think I agree entirely. I think there's people who have to create noise to get people to come and look at them. I call these weak people. Okay? There are weak people who have to be nasty, who have to make noise, who have to be controversial, who even, you know, they put that little opening sentence in the title of whatever they got to say. Blah, blah, blah is bad. It's not for me. And then they go and prove it is for them. Okay. So we put those in the bin, whether they've got an afro or not. Okay. Then there are people like my friend in Botswana who shoots in 35 to 40 degrees centigrade quite regularly, who after a long series of conversations, he ends up with one of these. The Z9, I can shoot. That's a 2 terabyte. That's a 2 terabyte car. That lasts 46 minutes at 8.3K 60p. And she does documentaries with a very long lens, and she will be on a species out in the heat all day. She's got a cooler with gel packs, which are in the cooler, which she can put on cameras and things if she needs to. But she ended up with a Z9. And she ended up with a Z9 because she watched some people, maybe in Hong Kong, maybe in China, maybe in wherever, Melbourne, sorry, maybe in these other places. And you said, I need to be able to shoot that without having to worry. And I won't do it in one shot necessarily. I'll maybe do it a shot, a shot, a shot, or footage. So the camera doesn't have a lot of time to cool down. And I think this is what we're showing. You've got hot card issues where you've got the wrong card. This is probably the coolest running card of all of them. It's the Sabrent Rocket Pro. And then you've got the Delkins and the others. So they're all very, very expensive cards. So there are limitations with all cameras. Okay? It's insane to think there aren't. Nikon never claimed that its cameras could run forever. Of course, it chose to say, when you film with this codecs at this frame rate, it can run forever. They probably wouldn't say, well, if you stick it there, then it will overheat. Well, why would they? Because most normal people, 99.999%, don't shoot like that. Apparently, a certain gentleman does B-roll in 8.3K 60p. Okay, it's a choice. Use a Z9. Use a Z9. Right. Now, like Jeff, when I shoot 20 frames per second RAW with a fast card like that, the Z9 literally doesn't buffer out. Pretty much.
Correct. Yep.
80, 100, 120 shots. I can't remember the exact number I gave up, but I've done very, very long sequences. The animal's gone. The leopard comes down the tree, runs away. It's gone. Am I going to just hold my finger on the button until the camera stops, or am I going to lift it, move the vehicle? Which is what we did, right? We moved the vehicle. So
yeah.
I get it. If you've got a use case that says you have to, so there's another guy I commune with. He's in a hot state in the US. He's out shooting an off-road commercial in the heat for a motor company. He's got 3 bodies. One gets hot, sticks it in the fridge. Next one sticks the next one, because he's worked out this is what he's got to do. So it's entirely reasonable to understand what your limitations are. And I've said it. When mine comes, hopefully tomorrow, maybe Friday, I will be doing some testing on it for my use, with my cards, with my lenses, with how I shoot it in my temperature. Right? Hey, Jeff. You've got a visitor.
My wife is getting the dog to crawl out from under my computer desk.
Is that the first on-screen visit?
Hey, this is Jeff.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to meet you. So a lot of this, and it's all pre-release, by the way. These are all non-production bodies. They're all, and I don't think there's a lot of difference, but okay. But it's the noise. I like Rich's tests. I like what Matt did. I think they did it properly. They did it scientifically. We now have some data. Of course, I will try and replicate some of it. And if it's the same, I'll say. If it's not the same, it's not the same. And I will say on my website. So for all of us who buy a professional tool and want to use it in a professional way, we ought to understand what the limits are. But I'm not going to say, oh, I'm not buying this. I'm not going to buy this thing because it weighs half a ton. I carry 2 of these, by the way, and lenses, I'm reaching down, lenses like this that weigh a lot more. Hello, the head fell off, the cat fell off. So it's horses for courses. And I know a lot of ladies that carry the same gear. I also know ladies that will only shoot micro.
Well, I made a comment on Matt Granger's video, and it wasn't meant to spark a giant debate or anything else, although he chose to respond to it. Yeah. And my only complaint is, with the Z8, and now we've transitioned over to the Z8 talk, and I want to talk about Canon too, because the R1 they think was spotted in the wild.
Yeah.
And I am excited for the R1, by the way, the Canon R1. I absolutely am. I'm not just saying that, because then I get a peek at what the follow-up to the Z9 might be, because that's how it works in the real world, not the YouTube world, but in the real world. And if we're not all excited about a new camera coming out with a new manufacturer, then you know what? You're just a fanboy. And that's all there is to it. I'll say it right now. Absolutely. You're just a fanboy. I want to see all these cameras come out because it gives us a peek to what our brand will do next. And I think that's it's something we should all look forward to. But I also wanted to talk about the Z8, only because tomorrow's the big day when everybody's going to get it in their hands. And somebody just sent me something and said, "Do you want me to join?" I don't know. Let's see. Hang on a second. Sorry. Sidetracked. Shiny object.
Squirrel.
Oh, there is a squirrel.
I don't know. So anyway, I detest anybody that wants to beat one brand down to lift their brand up. I think it's stupid. I think this is where it's I will use the word childish. It is. I don't do that. I don't want it on my channel. It's all about us as photographers, which is why I've gravitated to trying to come up with these other topics to chat about. And people seem to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. I'll be a bit controversial in my take on it, only because it generates more and more conversation about that topic. But we can't take away the fact that we are photographers. We love whatever it is that we shoot, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that people shouldn't, show their appreciation for their brand. You absolutely should. But when you start comparing it to other brands and saying my brand's better than yours, I'm sorry. That's the end of the conversation for me.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear it. I don't care about it. Because I do believe I have never shot any other brand. Why? Because I'm happy where I'm at. That doesn't mean it's the best. It's the best for me. And everybody should feel that way about the brand that they shoot. It's the best for you. If you're not happy with it, then move to another. Absolutely. I have never turned anybody away because they left Nikon and went to another brand. I don't care. You have to choose what you like. And I think that's great. But on the Z8, tomorrow, get ready. Another 150 videos will drop because everybo's going to get their Z8.
Well, 150 unboxing videos will come out.
Yeah.
And you know what? And people complain about that. I don't want to see them. But you know what? I know people are proud of what they get and whatever. And that's fine if they want to do that. Or, 2,000 cat photos. I don't care. I got a cat. Maybe when I get mine, I'll take a bunch of cat photos too, just to show everybody that I have the camera.
Did you do the 8512 cat video, Chuck?
No,
like everybody else.
No,
cat eyes. This is the cat eyes at 1.2.
I've been waiting for the Z8 so I can do it in HEIF.
I'm not going there.
What's skin smoothing too?
So, Jeff, you want to say?
Just so
I thought HEIF was a candy bar. Never mind.
If everybody wants to know why I'm getting the Z8, I'll tell you. I have the Z9. Why do I need the Z8? Because it has skin smoothing, and that's the only reason I'm getting it. Okay.
Okay.
I want to use
it. That's your wife's excuse, right? You're not the dear.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like this is what I'm shooting right now. It's a C word. Okay.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Is it a perfect camera? No, far from it. Was my D500 a perfect camera? No, far from it.
Yeah.
Or the D7200 before that, or the D5100 before that, or my Nikon F3. The Nikon F3 was pretty close to a perfect camera, but it's
no, Jeff. I got to disagree with you there.
You're going back too far, Jeff. You're going
to say the F5, are you, Chuck?
No, I'm going to say nothing with film is what I'm saying.
Nothing with film. Yeah.
I shot film for a while.
Well, of course, we're not allowed to use the word photo. We take images. You take images, Chuck. You don't take photos. Right?
That fair criticism is valid.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I love this camera. This to me is a great camera. Are there things I would change? Yeah. But it's not relevant because that's for my style of shooting.
Yeah.
And Jeff, to your question before on is it brand bashing? I think it depends on how the information is presented.
Yes.
And the intent. I mean, if somebody's saying that, okay, if you get the Z8, you have about an hour and a half of video before the thing overheats, and you have, if you're shooting
how you word it
at 10 bit or whatever, you've got. That's good to know before I buy the camera. But as long as it's presented as factual information,
Right.
Well, this camera stinks, and you should never buy it because that's just clickbait. That's stupid.
And Jeff, when you told me, I think you sent me an email asking about what should you do? Should you wait or whatever? I think that was the conversation we were having. And what did I tell you, man? I can't tell you to wait. You buy what makes you happy. And if I know that you bought the Canon R7. Did I ever say, hey, I don't want to see you anymore on the channel, or I'm not going to talk to you because you're a traitor? No.
Yeah, you told me that, but it had nothing to do with the Canon.
Man.
Well, what's funny is when sometimes I could be shooting, one day I could just be shooting I shoot regularly with one person, a friend of mine, but there are other people that we hang out with when we see them at the same location. So you could have 10 people, lined up, and every camera imaginable.
Yeah.
And I never, the comment, there's never a comment about what camera anybody's using. It's more like, gee, did you see that? Or did you manage to get that shot? And then if they did, you say, do you mind, can I see what you got? And you share the images with the people that you're shooting with, and nobody ever talks about the camera. The only place it gets talked about is when you're, on YouTube.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
I only have a little over 300. I think it's like 301, 302. I haven't looked for a couple of days, but yeah, I only have a little over 300 subscribers on my channel. And probably part of the reason that is I don't talk gear.
Yeah.
Don't talk. The closest I ever came to talking gear was I put like a 30-second video up with the box that the Canon R7 came in. It said new camera day. I didn't even talk about the camera. It's like, to me, that is so irrelevant to the photography.
Everybody should be happy with the gear that they have. I mean, if you want to talk about what really excites you about the gear, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when people start saying it's better than what you have. My camera's better than yours, and here's why. All this.
Well, technically, it was better for about a second, and then something new will come, right? So I think
yes, absolutely.
Move this slightly. So there's a lot of D850 users who are nervous about going to this or the baby, the Z8. And I can say, without doubt, because three of us here have done that recently, that there is a transition. You have to relearn some stuff. You have to work out how this thing works, and it is different. I say now, having owned this for almost since January last year. Since January last year, so however many months that is, 14, 15 months. It's taken me till recently to have absolute confidence in it. And the settings I've put in it and how I have it tailored for my use with the different function buttons. I know Canon shooters who've tried my camera. They hate it. Why? All the buttons are in different places. Even the on-off button's in a different place, let alone the shutter button and how you change the ISO and how you change from this and how you change from that.
Yeah.
Shooters coming from a Z6, Z7, you'll see some things the same, but actually there's quite a lot of things that are different. I say better because technically they are, but it's only once you've got to understand it and got used to it. So anybody who says they're going to jump ship from the Nikon to the Canon or to the Sony has got to factor in just how long it's going to take them to adapt to this new system. And it's not overnight. And so if you are a gentleman from Philadelphia or New York who's got big hair and he knows how to shoot every camera and he's given it for 10 minutes and he goes straight into auto, well, why? But okay, you're not going to have configured that camera to do its best. And we've all said it. So we go backwards to go forwards. I think there's a lot of time that we could spend on, this is how I use this camera. This is how I have it set up for, Jess, whatever you're shooting. Jeff, the other Jeff, that's what you're shooting. You have it set up for your use, the way you like to shoot. This is what your trade-offs were. So I've just posted with Steve Perry and others that I am finally putting my function 3 button the same as the function 1, so that the function 1 and 2 will be the same on the Z9 and the Z8. So that when I pick up a Z8 or a Z9, I use them exactly the same in this mode or this mode, right? On the Z9. That function 3 for me was this random thing. I just stuck things in. So, and that's taken me a year to make that decision, because I thought, oh, I must try that mode. I must try that mode. I must try that mode. I don't think we've got a shortage of this is how I use this camera for me. So it's technically, this is what the camera does. Objectively, this is how I use it. And these are the trade-offs I've done, which is why Steve Perry's new book is so great. How to use the Z8 and Z9 for wildlife. He just added the Z8 stuff. And he said, this is how I use it. He gives you examples how he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not Steve Perry. You haven't shot 5 billion photos, so you won't have his skill level at that. I'm Andy. I need a lot more help, so I do it my way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if any of us picked up a Canon with its eye, what's the thing with the eye? It tracks your own eye.
Yeah, the eye autofocus. Yeah.
God, that scares the bejeebus out of me, because I'm looking everywhere anyway, and if it's starting to follow my eye, I have no idea what the thing's going to be focusing on. So, you know.
I said this a long time ago. I've said it repeatedly throughout the streams, talking about what was I talking about, Chuck? Where'd you go? I'm trying to read comments and at the same time speak. That's impossible for me.
Doing a review when you haven't had the camera.
Oh no! Trying to educate the world. Forget about that. You know, everybody's saying, you know, that comment comes up all the time. You know, the best camera is a camera that's in your hand. You're not going to convince anybody of that. You know, we might as well give up on that whole thing. All right, Andy, I got you there. The thing is that we're not going to teach people how to shoot anymore unless they want to. If people come to you and they say, hey, help me out here, that's one thing. But trying to broadcast that whole thing, and I'm going to teach you how to shoot with the camera that you have, they don't want that, or they would ask for it. The bottom line is that, you know, let people do what they do, say what they say or whatever. But I just wish that we could become a photography community where it doesn't matter about brand. Be proud of your brand, but it doesn't matter about brand. And just enjoy the conversations. Again, that's why I've tried my best here recently to come up with some topics and things to talk about that aren't brand specific. I mean, there's nothing brand specific about black and white photography. There's nothing brand specific about, you know, RAW versus JPEG. These are just things that we all talk about, battle with, or whatever in the photography community. However, I don't mind a discussion about gear, again, because I see it differently than so many people. I'm not going to educate anybody on this. Those that know, and those that don't know, don't want to know. But I do enjoy, again, brands coming up with new models and things like that. That's why I kind of follow it, because I want to see what the next leapfrog will be for Nikon. And a Canon shooter should feel the exact same way. If I was a Canon shooter and the Z8 came out, I'd be looking at that saying, man, look, can we improve now, or what should I expect? And I think everybody does look at the R5, which is a good camera. I know everybody beat it up, just like they're doing with the Z8. Maybe some people feel like they have to. Well, you picked on my R5, so I got to pick on the Z8. Instead of doing that, just think about where the R5 II is going to go next. You know, what is the R1 going to present that we haven't seen yet? And I really believe there's going to be a lot for that. And I got to say this for my buddy Jeff over here, Long Rider. For you, Jeff, I want to see an A9 III that has the specs in it that you guys that shoot the A9 are looking for, because I know that that's a good camera. It's just, it just needs its own refresh. So I'm hoping that happens soon, just for you, Jeff.
Well, that's why potentially the R1 is so exciting.
Yes.
If the R1 has this total sensor, which basically is the Z9, the Z8 reads the sensor in 1/270 a second, right? A total sensor reads it all together. That's how I understand the definition. If Canon have cracked that, solved that engineering problem, then that's fascinating.
Yes.
Right? Video already shoots the whole frame pretty much. I know it scans a bit, but it pretty much is scanning at 1/270th. I've never understood how you get 1/32,000th of a second on a sensor that shoots every 270th of a second. But then you think about it, well, it doesn't shoot a shot every 270th of a second.
Yeah.
But then some do. Some shoot at 250th. So how did they do that? Well, probably they skip. I don't know if they do. So this new R1, if it is as was rumored and shared by somebody, seen at an event in Tokyo in disguise, okay. At least it's coming. There are high-end Canon shooters who want that higher megapixel, whatever it's going to be. I assume it will be 45, like the 9 and the Z8, Z9, A9. I have no idea whether an A9 2 or 3, I can't remember what number you're up to now, with twin chips will be a fantastic thing, or whether Sony will take this extra leap forward.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is why it's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Now, it won't be cheap. This is the only thing we know for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that's just
present, a birthday present, a Christmas present, a little cheap gift to the kids' camera to make the profit to invest in something high end. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Got no issues with it. So there we go.
Well, I kind of smiled, Andy, when you said you just changed your function 1 and 3 buttons to be the same thing. I had mine the same from almost day one, and now they're temporarily different while I'm continuing to experiment.
Yeah, exactly.
To tweak things as I go. I'm always trying something different or tweaking something to see if it makes something better or easier. So I'm in that phase again. It's like, I don't know how many times I've gone through my camera and said, well, I think I'd rather do it this way. And what's great is I have that option to be able to do it.
Yep. Hey, Andy's going to take off here in a minute. So if anybody has any questions or comments they want to aim at Andy, and by all means do, bombard him with comments.
So I have a minor request for Nikon. Give us a tiny bit of software that lets us take the Z9 settings and the Z8 settings so I can harmonize them across all my bodies, and I'll have 3 or 4 of these things. I've got 2 9s and an 8 coming, so maybe I'll have 2 8s. I don't know. I want to be able to harmonize them. All right. At the minute, I make changes in one Z9, I immediately copy those same edit settings into the other one immediately, because I cannot remember what the heck I've put on function 3 from minute to minute, let alone between shoots. Right. So, and at the minute that we know we're going to enjoy, that's you, Chuck, me, others, are going to love setting up our brand new toy.
Yep.
Absolutely. I posted my spreadsheet. I've got a poll running on Backcountry Gallery. Are you going to set up your Z8 the same as your Z9? I've got a little thing running, and the answer is yeah, because we can't remember.
Yeah.
I've got no freaking, these guys that shoot every different version of every camera all the time, they must have that type of mind. I don't. Right?
If I get mine, if mine shows up and it's going to be set up exactly the same as the Z9.
Yeah,
definitely.
So for me, I was just showing this little grip I got, which is the new grip.
Yep.
It's got 2 buttons. I don't like them. They're a bit deep for me. So that's a Z9. That's a Z8. It's got 2 buttons. That's all it's got. 2 function buttons, not 3. Must be a Z8. And it's ready to go on a little cage I've got. So, or something. So for all of these things, people who think bashing the opposition is a good thing, I very much doubt that they're endorsed by the manufacturer they love. I very much doubt it. I think it's absolutely dumb if any camera company is paying them to beat up another company. It's just stupid. And these companies are very sophisticated.
Yeah, I would doubt seriously if company A is paying shills to bash company B. That
They're not.
I don't think they're doing that.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's all in just the base, the fanboyism base. And again, everybody wants to be the top dog or whatever. Not everybody, but that's where that comes from. Maybe it's they're not happy with their camera, and rather than just saying, I'm not, here's what I want from my camera or my brand. Instead of saying it that way, it's just easier to bash. Hey, hang on a second. I'm going to bring somebody in here right now, and we'll see how this goes. Amar?
I'm just going to say goodbye to Long Rider quick because he's taken off, or he's already taken off. But
take it easy, Long Rider.
Take care, buddy. Take care, man.
Amar, how you doing, man?
Doing great. How are you?
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you're good.
I don't know if this headset works, but it's saying it is connected. So
it is.
You got to do the phone commercial, man. Can you hear me now?
Well, Chuck, it was exciting that you actually found the heat setting in the camera. So I was super excited when I heard that today. So I'm looking forward to some 10-bit shots from you.
Well, you have to educate us as to us.
Hey,
old
no.
people.
I left the education scene. I'm only about melting cameras nowadays because that seems to be the hot topic. And Z8 won my mirrorless award. So you and Mozman actually got a kick out of it. Yeah. I wanted to do that because, guys, seriously, it sucks. We've been there in the Sony and Canon camp.
Sure.
And you guys are facing the same. And it was funny, probably about, I don't even know, 4 months ago, I was talking to Jeff Longrider, and I said, you watch, when they chop that body in half and they put 8K whatever in there, these guys are going to find a way to melt that camera. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's really sad, because it truly is a remarkable machine. J-Rod Photo was at the event last Friday. There's one tonight. I'm going to try to see if I can go because they actually did send me tickets to it to go. If I can go over there, but I got to get surgery on my tooth, which I cracked in half over the weekend. So if that goes well, I'll drive over there. But if not, we'll grab one once it comes in at like District Camera in Washington D.C. and play with it. But with all joking aside, seriously, I know I've been saying it, and Nikon sat around for a year and a half. I wish they would have put a couple more things in there, but I get it. They're not going to more than the Z9 because then it'll probably upset a lot of other people. But it gave Canon like a reason not to do something else. And I hope, Chuck, you're right that the R5 Mark II comes out. I think they're probably going to hold off from that even longer now. That they know that the R5 is actually going to hold up against sort of what's in the Z9. I get it; it's stacked and whatnot. And you saw what they did with the pricing. Canon always pulls this crap, and then you know the deal. It's like we'll watch this in the DSLR era. Once they get into a very comfortable spot, that cripple hammer will come back around, and then they start dictating sort of the market, which I absolutely hate. And so Sony and Nikon need to stay relevant, and you need to keep on pushing like they are, which is truly a good thing.
Yeah.
So, you're right. This community needs to change. J-Rod, Jeff, many folks, we have met up in person. And honestly, you're right, Jeffrey. No one cares what your camera is in real life. You want to come to Conomingo, the only thing stopping you from getting a good shot is your skill. It's something we don't talk about. So if you got a Z9 with an 800 PF, if you don't get a good shot, don't be sitting there blaming Nikon for it. Yeah. You're the one to blame, my friend, because you know what? That eagle ain't going to wait for you, or that bird ain't going to wait for you. And I'm just using birding as an example.
Sure.
But, I think the biggest deal going right now, Chuck, I've been just watching. I know I was ready to get that Z5, then I pulled the plug on it. But the Z7 II right now for $2,500 it's a heck of a deal. If you're okay with 10 frames per second, I don't think you can beat it. For that kind of money, it is the best bang for the buck. But most people, I gotta have this, I gotta have a stack sensor. I have the A9 II, right? You just mentioned the A9 III. Even on the A9 II, the bird wings, they get kind of goofy with the stack sensor. It happens. It's not a perfect piece of technology, guys. So you know what? Do the best that you can with what you have, and and as I've said many times on your live stream before, Chuck, you guys, like what Longrider put into the chat window, you guys should be really blessed that you actually have a flagship. We don't even have one on the Canon side. Sony's got one. We don't even have a flagship. And there's so much bickering. It's like, God, man, that Z9 is a fantastic machine. Just go shoot it.
It's all in how we present anything that we're talking about. And that's the problem, because people can't read the sarcasm in chat. They can't read the sarcasm in videos. And when we're talking about other cameras, we've got to be careful not to, you can't joke around nowadays. It's just like Nancy was saying earlier. It's gotten to the point where it's like politics. And just joking around, people can read what you're really saying. So yeah, and this is again why I commented on Matt Granger's video. I commented and he responded, and I said my comment was, why can't people just accept that this is the camera, the Z8, that so many people wanted, and let them enjoy it, instead of trying to find every way in the world to say it's not exactly the Z9. It's not exactly what it says it is. I mean, we all understand that. And I have said it over and over again. It can never be the Z9, the Z8. I'm just using this as an example. It can never be the same because it's in a smaller body. We knew that. We knew it was going to come with compromises. So why is it a surprise now? And why are people, if you want to show, and a reviewer should show exactly what the camera can do, but I think you owe it to the audience to say, when will you ever do this? And how will you use the camera? That will determine whether it's crippled or not. And
I would look at it this way. I'll give you a different perspective, Chuck. It's like, we use these words like crippled, compromised. I don't think the Z8 is compromised. I think the Z8 offers what it was designed to offer, right? And the Z9 offers what it was designed to offer. They're two different cameras. And our problem is since we haven't invested into a $5,500 flagship, we want every other camera, even the $500 one, to do what the $5,500 camera does. That's our problem.
That's been the case even through the DSLR days. Everybody wants all those features for $500, and it's just not going to happen.
I want it, but I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Or pay in your time to learn how to use it, which is the thing that kills me. I spend $5,000 on this camera, it doesn't take the photo for me.
Yeah.
How many times? How many times?
Tired of me saying that when I say I wish people would read. I almost caught myself with a bad word.
You really did.
I caught myself. Read.
I've been working on that, Jeff.
Read the manual. Learn your camera. Experiment, because you know what? When you experiment and it comes out like garbage, who cares? It's not film, man. You're not paying for it. Fool with the settings and learn the camera, and then it doesn't cost you anything but some time.
But we're old, Jeff. We're old. We're very old. We're over 12.
I'm back to the whole point of most of this conversation is, why can't you be happy with another brand's success? It's not like it's the end of the world. Your brand is not going to just sit back and not do anything. You should be happy for everybody's happiness in their brand. If somebody, again, I go back to the R1. I really, and I've said this for I don't know how long now, I really think the R1 is going to be a fantastic camera. It's going to bring some new technology that nobody's seen, just like the Z9 brought the shutterless camera. And I think that, others may follow that trend too, but there's going to be something new in the R1 that Canon develops that we can look forward to, and we should look forward to it. And Sony's going to do the same thing. I think if brands could get rid of all if they could shut down all the talk on YouTube, we'd all be a big happier family, but that's not going to happen, of course. And again, just get away from the fact that my dog is bigger than your dog. My dog is better than your dog. It is today, but it won't be tomorrow when the next, when another brand comes out with a competing camera. But that's, again, it goes back to good thing. And I wish I could get people that want to fight that to show me where a camera brand hasn't responded to another brand's features or whatever.
That's the whole game that we went through for decades and decades with Canon and Nikon back and forth forever and ever, always leapfrogging. And what's sad is somebody comes out with one new feature or one new widget. Nothing wrong with that. But what's sad is people get so upset about it because the other guy came out with this new thing and it's not on the thing they just bought 6 months ago. It's not like that great shot that you took yesterday all of a sudden isn't a great shot anymore. Calm down.
And there is a lot to be said about learning your craft and learning your camera. I get all that, but I can't let that take away the enthusiasm for some people for new gear as well. There's nothing wrong with that either. Nothing at all.
Totally
wrong
agree.
with that.
And, you know, I spent probably good bit of a week and a half in communication with Canon. I know quite a bit about the R1, but I am not going to spill the guts because these rumor sites obviously will do a fantastic job of missing the mark, just like they did on the Z8 on a lot of things. You know, and Nikon did a great job, and I really meant what I said in my video. Great job for keeping it a secret as to what exactly is in there. They didn't know. They were just guessing, making stuff up every single day, every hour, which is fine. But at the end of the day, I look at it this way. You know, if you have a Z9 type of machine in your hand, honestly, when you have the flagship, do you really care what they're going to do that's not the flagship anymore? I don't, but many people do, and which is fine. You're right, Chuck. If you're looking for a complementary camera for your Z9, it might be a viable choice, and you might be doing that. But I think as Nikon fills these little voids that they have, like the Z8 was rightfully needed because they didn't have an R5 competitor. Pretty soon they'll probably have something like a D500 replacement. And then, you know, then it'll probably become less noisy. And I think that's exactly what Sony and Canon went through. These are growing pains, right? Because these are emerging technologies. Everyone is trying to win their piece of the puzzle in this space. Right, and the space is shrinking, by the way. Right, every month the camera market is shrinking, and as much as we hate to believe that, it's true. You know, if you think they're selling more cameras today than they did 5 years ago, you're wrong. Right, so the brands are going to do whatever they can to sell you everything that they can.
Everybody, hold your thought for a minute because Andy's got to go. Andy, thank you so much for joining us, man. Always.
Hey guys, thank you so much. Andy. My only response, Amma, is if you have one of these with an H on it, since they've just dropped the H series, you wonder what the company is going to do next. So a lot of us Nikon shooters were quite worried for a while, and then the Z9 came, right? So we're less worried now. Yeah.
Good.
And I hope that all these cameras survive.
You guys have an awesome setup.
I hope all these people survive. Because the real fight is against these things, right?
I'll share one thing, though, Andy, before you leave. It's not even the camera. We lust over the cameras, but look at what Nikon has done. Nikon, whatever, you know, depending on what part of the world you're in. Look at what they've done with the glass, right? I mean, their telephotos are incredible. But we don't have a D500 replacement. I mean, to put like the 600 with the TC 800 PF on a D500 Z9 type of thing for $2,500, like I said in my previous video, they won't be able to supply that camera for years to come if they made that, and they need to do that soon because that market is really waiting, and there are people on the fence waiting around that will hang on to that D500 or jump to, like someone here did, to a R7 and try different things. Rather than do that, just put it out there. They're capable of doing it.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Ron, for dropping in here. Appreciate it. Thank you, Andy.
Nice to chat, everybody. Gotta go. Bye.
Yeah, always nice.
Hey, Andy.
Joe, let me say hello to Joe real quick. Joe Man's Land. Thank you.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Period.
Where is Andy from, Chuck? Where is he located?
UK.
UK. Okay. Yeah.
Now, I like to kind of direct us back from the kind of tribalism talk again, but something that Jeff said, Jeffrey said, and Andy said a little while ago that rings really true, and it matches my personal experience that it doesn't matter if you're going from a Z6 to a Z9, or like I did from one brand to another. There's a learning curve. And I bought my new camera system the end of February. It's just been the last couple of weeks that I take the thing out. I don't think about the settings. I don't think about where the buttons are. I see something in front of me. I pull the camera with my eye, focus on it, hit the button, and I'm reasonably sure that I've captured a good image. It took about 8 to 10 weeks to get to the point where I was that comfortable with it. And that was probably 15,000 shots over that 8 weeks.
Yep.
And I mean, now it's like an old friend. I pick it up. I know where the buttons are. I know what my settings are. If I want to change ISO, I don't even have to drop down and look at the camera. I just kind of do it. But it takes a while to get to that point. And one of the things that I think some of the YouTube reviewers do a disservice is they get the camera, they have it for 3 or 4 days, Nikon or Canon or whoever, they were at a press event, they had the thing for a couple of days, they shot with it, and then they make comments on it. Guys, it takes a while. I don't care how good you are and how much of a pro you are. When you're getting something that the buttons are in different places, you've got different menu options, the menu options mean something different. You can't just pick the thing up and shoot it like it was an old friend. It takes a while to get to that point.
I think you should almost have to. You got to take 5,000 pictures with it before you should open your mouth.
Yeah, I agree.
I was joking around. I'm glad you said that, Jeff, because I was joking around with the guys at Canon CPS, right? It's like, well, what's the criteria? Well, you just have to have enough gear to be able to get in. I said, you should ask them, how many shots have you shot in the last 1 year? Not enough. You're out. That kind of thing. Do you even hold that badge? But yeah, you're right. You're not going to learn this unless you really use the camera. There's just no way around it.
I'm still tweaking my settings as I go.
Yeah.
And like we say, and there's no such thing as the perfect camera, and there never will be. The perfect camera is right here. Unfortunately, I can't save this data to a card in the back of my neck, because if I could, that would be the best image you'd ever get.
I wonder.
Oh, Jeff, it would be.
Does that card overheat, Jeff?
Experiment on me now that I mentioned it. So,
does that card
Jeff, do you have 2020?
With these, maybe.
I don't know if we want to use your eyes as the model.
Let me see here.
Camera.
Wow, Chuck, Jeff, Amar, Joe, you guys look a whole lot better now than you did a couple of seconds ago. Okay, never mind.
Wait a minute. Where's my screen?
No, I think that's the tricky thing is like, what is the perfect camera? There isn't a perfect camera.
There isn't one.
Nor should there be. The perfect camera is the tool you know how to use, and that in any given circumstance, you can get a good photo, right? And I feel like that's going to be different for everyone. People will poo-poo the Z6 autofocus as much as they want, but I shot my first wedding on the weekend with old F-mount glass on the FTZ2 adapter, and I didn't miss a single shot. It was fine.
Yep.
Right. So I think it's it's one of those things like, to what you were saying, Jeff, people get really tribal at different points, and everyone does, right? Nikon uses, Canon uses, Fuji uses, Pentax uses it somewhere else.
You know what? If any of us have a bad day, we could drift in that lane pretty easy. You know what I mean? It's
easily.
It's easy to do, and sometimes you find yourself doing it by act. You don't even realize you're doing it. And sometimes you just do it.
No, you're right, and I've had to come back on the stream, a few times and say, hey, look, I'm sorry, I was wrong, or for whatever reason, because life gets in the way of YouTube. Believe it or not, it actually does, because we all have lives. And I know a lot of people think that we that are on YouTube, that's all we do is sit in front of the computer, create content, create live streams or do live streams. But, that's not the case. So we do have bad days, but I think it's important for us to come back and say, hey, I'm sorry. I had a bad day, and I said some things I shouldn't have said, or I didn't mean, or whatever. And I think that's important.
Yeah. how many guys? I know I am. Amar, you are. Joe, I think you are too. Musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Strat versus Les Paul. How many times have you heard that argument? Martin versus Taylor, and then you got PRS, which is kind of that's the Pentax of the guitar world. But it's not just camera users. I mean, people who invest a lot of money in some piece of gear. There's a tendency, I think, that we all have, I know I do, to want to defend your purchase.
Oh, 100%.
You spend $5,000 on a guitar. You kind of want to convince yourself and everybody else that that was the best investment that you could possibly make.
Oh yeah, you have to defend it against all, right? It's like when
you don't want to hear somebody tell you that you bought a piece of junk for $5,000.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's like it's like that one time you buy a new car off the lot and you're driving it off and you're like, okay, McConaughey was in this, therefore the Lincoln is okay, and you keep telling yourself that, and then about 100 kilometers later, you're at a mechanic shop and you're still defending it. The mechanic's like, I don't care, just pay me. You're like, no, this is a great one.
You keep saying how great your Ford Pinto, how great your Ford Pinto is, right?
Yeah, well, you do know.
I had one of those, by the way. 1976, my first car, Pinto, brown.
Yeah,
and brown was the right color for it because it. Never mind. I can't use that word on Chuck's.
Yeah,
on Chuck's stream, but you know what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
It showed its true colors, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
exactly. The moral of the story is
Jeff,
we all know
you're spot on. I mean, even in the music world, you know that, right? What you just brought up is kind of important, because when you when you play the Les Paul, it's a different aura that the person has on their face and how they're connected to the device, right? And it's just a guitar, right? And to most people listening, it's probably just the guitar. To that person, it's an extension of them, because that instrument is part of them, and that's how real fanboyism is grown, right? Even in the camera world, this is me, man. If you blindfold me and you put I've said this many times. If you blindfold me and you give me a Canon, I'll tell you it's a Canon. Well, that's really because it's become an extension of who I am. Right. And it's not to say that the other brands are no good, and it's the same thing with the Les Paul. But, you also have something that's a little bit more niche. Right. So when you have the nicher products in life that you buy, the higher echelons of, your Leicas and things like that, it's a different clientele, and their mindset is different. It's not the same. When you're paying $6,000, $15,000 for a camera, they're not thinking the same way as, does it go 50 frames per second? That doesn't even register with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just want to make that point, because I think that's where some of the fanboyism comes. And it may not even be fanboyism; it may just be purchase confirmation. I want to I spent, like you said, $10,000-$15,000 on a camera. I spent $5,000 or $6,000 on a guitar. I want to convince myself and everyone else that that was a wise purchase.
Well, why do you have to convince them?
I
don't convince people that I bought $100,000 car. It's like, it's for me. It's not for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm weird. You guys will probably agree with that, but I have two Martins and a Taylor for acoustic, and I have two Les Pauls and a Strat.
Nice.
They're guitars. I use them for different things and for different types of music, and that's just a guitar. It's just a camera.
You know what you're going to find really funny, Jeff, is I did a concert not too long ago where I was actually performing, and these two guys, they were at each other in this venue, right? Oh, well, why are you using a Soundcraft board? Why don't you use a Yamaha board? I'm like, well, why does it matter? It's like, well, the Yamaha one is a sweeter sound. And I'm like, there's going to be 4,000 people in this hall. I don't know what's going to be sweet, but okay. But they argued for like an hour, on Soundcraft versus Yamaha. And it's like, you can't, like, no one is right, no one's wrong. It's like, it happens not only with cameras, with other things in life too.
Well, Mar, I think one of the best examples from the guitar world would be comparing like digital to tubes, right? Like you always get those, like, I mean, I love tubes, but I also don't play metal. Right. So like, you know what I mean? It's like different applications for different things. And as it comes to guitars, I mean, it's also the balance of the instrument, right? Like some people love that Les Paul sort of kick that you get with the neck coming up. If you're playing a lot of lead versus a Strat, it's a lot more even of an instrument in terms of where it sits on your leg, or maybe you're a smaller guy and you want the lighter guitar, you go with the Strat, right? There was actually was at a National Music Center event a little while ago, and they had one of the musicians from this group called Whitehorse up here in Canada, and the guitarist, he's this really slender guy, and he was playing on his Gretsch White Falcon, or no, Gold Falcon, whatever the typical one with all the gold hardware is. And they said, hey, like, why do you like this guitar? And he said, oh, I just play this one when I'm playing live because it looks cool. The guitar I really use is a knockoff Strat with a hollow body because I'm built like a 10-year-old Dutch girl, right? And like that's the one he uses for recording because he's able to really get into the instrument. So, to what you guys are saying about cameras, it's the same thing. Whatever is going to allow you to express yourself artistically without having to think about the technology that much, that's the right tool for you. And whether that's a $10,000 camera or a $500 point and shoot, whatever that is, just take some good photos and don't let people get you down. I like
you're gonna find one more thing really funny is I got a friend of mine in Washington DC has a headshot studio, right? That's all he does, just headshots, right? So I asked him, it's like everywhere I turn in the studio it says Pro Photo, but whenever I see you that not in the studio somewhere else, you use nothing that's Pro Photo, either brown color or other types of things. What's the deal? He's like, because when people and clients walk in, they can relate to Pro Studio. It looks cool. It's not that it's better. It's a perception and a aura that they're creating within everywhere you turn. It looks like something that is like, got the best lighting, the most expensive lighting. So people feel a little bit more special. He's like, I'm able to charge more money for that. So a lot of times bigger cameras are not because, oh, I just love a bigger camera. It's because it really sets the tone for what you might be providing as a service. I paid $10,000 for that wedding, and the guy showed up with what? That little camera, the same one that I can buy at Best Buy.
A K3.
Yeah. So it's it does matter. Size does matter sometimes, but again, times are changing because now people are shooting weddings on iPhone. So I don't even know how long we're gonna even be able to buy a camera. So enjoy it while you can.
100%. Well, anyways, guys, I gotta run here. I gotta get back to the office.
Yes.
Joe, thanks for dropping in, even if it was over lunch, man. I always appreciate it. So thanks for being in here, and thank you for the intro, man. I love it.
Next time, share lunch with everybody, will you?
Exactly.
I'm gonna go eat some turkey chicken chili. It doesn't sound good, but it's pretty tasty. It's not bad.
Nancy has a comment up here that I want to address. But before I do, everybody go check out Joe Man's Land. Check out his channel. Give him some love, people. He's constantly producing content over there. Good content. Go check him out. Drop a sub and a like for Joe Man's Land on YouTube.
Thanks, guys. Cheers, everyone. Have a great day.
Yep.
That's a really good statement there, Nancy.
I want to address this because there are so many people that want to come across as experts, and I hope that I don't ever, nobody would ever say that about me because I'm not an expert. I always throw it's my opinion in there if I'm talking about something, especially when we were initially talking about the Z9 so far back and then the Z8. It was my opinion, although I had strong feelings of why I thought it would be. But why is it people have to inject in a conversation just to show everybody that they're smarter than the other people? I don't like that. You know what? What you do and how you act tells me who you are. You don't have to prove to me anything. I can see it. I can read it through what you say. I can feel it in the way you express yourself. I don't need somebody that's constantly telling me that they're the expert in anything. I don't understand that. I guess there are people that are insecure and maybe they need to do that. They need that, that constant affirmation that they are the one-man shop, one-stop shop. They are the cat's meow. They are everything. I don't need to do that. That's why I never really show my photos. One, they're probably nothing to, brag about to begin with. I don't do that. I don't talk about how I am an expert at any one subject, especially in photography. I talk about what I do, and you know, how I may talk about how I address things or whatever, but I don't understand this constant need for affirmation with I'm the expert. Nobody else has a say in this at all. And I'm telling you right now, if you don't listen to me, then you're wrong or whatever. So, and I see that in some YouTube channels, and you know, it's just aggravating. So why do we do that?
I don't know. I mean, there's only two things I'm an expert in: being lazy and eating too much bad food.
I'm good at that too.
I have expertise in those two things, but
I'm good at that too. I'm good at that too.
There was a guy that I used to work with, really wise man, and he didn't. I mean, this wasn't original, but he told me something one day that stuck with me. He said, "Jeff, even if you're the smartest guy in that room, you're not the smartest guy in the world. There's always somebody that knows something more than you do about a topic, and the best thing to do is listen to them and learn."
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with that 100%. My dad gave me some advice a long time ago, and he said, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the world. You need to surround yourself with the smartest people in the world.
Yes.
And I learned from that, and he's absolutely right. Even in the military, I did my best to surround myself with people that were extremely intelligent, very good at what they do. And it served me well. And I think that's good advice for everybody to live by. I don't have to show everything I own. I don't have to talk about all the cameras and lenses and whatever. I don't have to talk about all the, all the years of experience, which I don't have compared to so many others, because I have nothing to prove to anyone. And I don't understand why some people have to prove their worth by talking about all that kind of stuff. So it goes on all the time. And I'll tell you, it's just, it just takes away from a conversation when we go down that path. But
well, I got something for you, Chuck. I got this for you. I need to send this to you, actually. Check this out.
M&M. All right.
But check this out. What's inside it? The favorite one that you drink. I mean,
yeah,
you can drink this. I got this from New York when I went, but never got a chance to send it to you. I know you sent your address. I will make sure I get this off to you, so you have it. That was brought for you while I was down there. So because I know you love it so much, so you can use it on the channel when you drink.
Well, it's become my shtick. M&M.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, Nancy. I see your comment up here about best we're part of a team. Absolutely. I spent 36 years of my career as a project manager, which is a Latin phrase that means nobody's friend, because I'm always asking people to do stuff they don't want to do when they don't want to do it. That was my job. But on the project teams that were the most successful and that we did the best work were the ones where I was allowed to choose my project team. And I always picked the project team where I was not the smartest person in the room. I was actually the dumbest person in the room. Like you said, Chuck, surround yourself with the best, surround yourself with smart people, and shut up and listen to them.
Well, that's what I do here.
Right. And one thing I'll share with you. So you did project management. So I do a lot in program management and delivery, right, within healthcare and the banking industries. Someone asked me one time, it's like, oh, what is the definition of a team? So, the traditional cooked up answer is really, to Nancy's comment, is, people that have a like-minded, goal in mind and think together and are able to live together, in harmony. True. But what I have seen, like, in addition to that, over so many years of driving massive, efforts. I mean, I'm talking some efforts that are 50, 60, $100 million efforts. They're big. Is the definition that I've arrived to over so many years as the definition of a team is people that trust each other.
Yeah.
Because if you don't trust each other, it doesn't matter how skillful you are. you won't get to the other side together as one. It just doesn't happen. So trust is a very big factor. And I think today, Chuck, trust is something that is very easily broken and always taken for granted among each other, among people, right? We fall for anything, and you know the deal. Anything that sounds good, flavor of the month, that's what we want. That's what we want to do. And it doesn't matter who or what along the way. We're actually bulldozing to do that. So I think that's just part of human nature. And what you're facing right now, Chuck, is nothing new. It's something that has been going on for years on end. It just seems to have a cyclical, repetition that's happening now, where Sony went through it, Canon went through it now, Nikon's going through the same pain. Give it a few months, give it a few years, and I think all of this will become a moot point. Because honestly, like I think you were saying, Chuck, earlier, if you can't shoot a good shot today with the cameras that are out there, you can't blame the brand anymore. That day is gone, right? So now it's really time to actually showcase your skill, not so much your gear. Yes, you can buy the latest and greatest. That's awesome. But are you producing something? This is what I do for myself. If I produce something that I think is really, really awesome, is someone willing to pay me for it? Right? If I can get a paying client to say, okay, I'll pay you $500 for that because that looks awesome, that is affirmation that I'm definitely doing something right. But if I line up 10 people and they're like, I want to pay you $1 for that, that should get you to go back into thinking that nice gear, but maybe I need to work on it a little bit more, before I can actually do something that people really want.
Yeah, Alan makes a comment here. He says, I was getting good pictures with my D4, but I'm getting better pictures with my Z9. And a lot of people will argue with you and say that's not the case, that, whatever. Get back in here. I will agree with you, Alan. And here's the reason I will agree. Because sometimes it takes something to motivate you to do even better. And if it's a new camera, there's nothing wrong with that. But so many people will say, ask you, is this going to make you a better photographer? And I just started answering with, yes, it will. If it does nothing more than motivate me to go shoot more, it will make me a better photographer. Not the camera capabilities, but the fact that I'm happy I got this new camera for whatever reason, which is why I tell people when they say, what camera should I buy, that don't have a camera yet, go feel them and look at them and pick the one that resonates with you. Don't worry about all the noise outside. Don't worry about what people are telling you to get. You pick the one that you like. It's aesthetically pleasing and feels good in your hand. And I don't care which one it is, but you're more apt to go shoot with that camera than you are one that could possibly even be better. But that's not the point. You've got to pick something that pleases you. Then you're more likely to want to use it. Same thing, here, you buy a new camera and people will ask, is it going to make you a better photographer? Well, I can't answer for you, but sometimes it will. Not just the capability of that new camera, but just the fact that you want it and you're willing to go out and shoot with it, which of course is always going to make you a better photographer the more that you shoot. So I agree with that, Alan. I'm happy that you found that to be the case with you. And I feel the same way, man.
Yeah, I'll say that the one thing about going mirrorless that I don't think maybe a better photographer, and people might argue that I'm a lousy photographer anyway, but a couple things on the electronic viewfinder that now that I'm getting used to have been game changers to me. One, having the histogram in the viewfinder. I never have to worry, have I blown the highlights? I could look in the upper right-hand corner of the viewfinder and there it is. That's one. And then I don't really think that what you see in a viewfinder of an EVF is truly WYSIWYG. It's not truly what you see is what you get. It's an approximation of what the final exposure is going to be. It's close, but it's not exact. Yeah. But at least I can look through. It's like, oh man, those shadows are black, or oh wow, that sky is just blown out. This is going to be a horrible picture. Yeah, and I know that before I press the button.
Yeah, you get in that 1/2 to 1 stop range either way.
Right.
You don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And anybody who, some people will try to say, well, that's so accurate that I don't have to touch the picture when I put it in post.
No.
But you always have to touch the picture a little bit when you put it.
There's a little difference, and I'll say that the sensor in the R7, I won't say is better than the D500. That's a pejorative term. It has a little bit more dynamic range, not a lot, but maybe a half a stop. So if my shadows
it all depends. It all depends on the situation, because there are situations when that R7 sensor can get you in trouble.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, especially in backlit situations, with a bright bird. You will have a very hard time if you don't have highlight tone priority on in that sensor to really get it to dial back down, because it will blow that thing out and you will lose it. I don't care if you shoot raw or you do whatever.
Yeah, I found that from what I've seen, I've only been using it about 10 weeks. So I mean, I'm by no means an expert on this camera yet. I'm still learning the thing. Yeah. But I think the darks, the shadows, I've got a little more latitude in the shadows.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's a little more sensitive in the highlights.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's a compromise.
One thing I would try on that, because I heard you talking about obviously the histogram on the right. That camera has what the R3 has, which is the OVF simulation, which really behaves like an optical viewfinder.
I haven't played with that yet. I've seen that menu option. I haven't tried it yet.
So try it, because that will force you to set your exposure, just like, the gentleman that asked the question that with the D4, he was getting better shots than the Z9. It will give you that DSLR experience. So it forces you to actually be in control of what that exposure. It doesn't show you what it looks like. It just shows you absolutely no lag in there whatsoever. It almost looks like a mirror, the way it does that. And
I'll play with that. I haven't tried it yet. I'll give that a shot.
You should try it, and what you will see is just keep an eye on your histogram when you do that. But the experience changes very fast, because it's literally a live feed from the sensor. And it doesn't get dark, none of that. It's not doing the exposure simulation for you anymore.
Okay.
But it's giving you an optical view of what it would look like if there was just an actual mirror inside it.
Okay, cool.
And I think the Z9 has something similar to that, also.
I'll play with that. I saw that menu option. I haven't gotten that far down the list yet, but I'll try that. Thank you.
I think it will really help you, because then you can really nail that exposure based on basic photography principles, rather than relying on what my viewfinder is showing me as a picture that it's good enough. So then you can use all of the things that you're normally used to using on a DSLR.
Cool. I'll give that a shot.
Hey, folks, I'm going to have to cut this short. This is, here lately, I haven't been able to do my marathon live streams. I've got something I have to do. Just got a phone call. Sorry about that.
No problem. Hope everything's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just I need to go help somebody with something, and I don't have I do have a choice, but I choose to actually help them because they've helped me before.
Hey,
I'm going to head out, Jeff,
because 4 hours.
I have surgery that I have to go through for this tooth here today. So I'm going to go ahead and head out, but I really appreciate you having me on. It was great to be on. Just to clear the record, it's like I have no hate whatsoever for Nikon. My channel was used for many different gains on many different fronts, and that's not going to happen anymore. So this community is obviously a lot of the people that are on this channel today, on Chuck's channel, have been on my channel for the last 8 to 10 years. They've been there a long time. So I know a lot of you personally. So please do not take it to heart if there's something that I've said that has, taken you down a different path. Just ping me, call me. You guys have my number. You guys have my email ID. It's not a big deal. We can definitely figure things out. But I really appreciate you, Chuck, for what you're doing. Continue doing what you're doing, and having these very targeted conversations that like what you're doing now. I think it's really truly is turning the whole community around into bringing back all of their skill to the table and applying that to the awesome gear that we actually end up all acquiring. So, great job. Hats off to each and every one of you, and Jeff, Andy, that dropped. I mean, you guys are truly awesome at what you do. Keep doing what you're doing, and you know, definitely, you have my support for sure. You know, I joke around a lot, but you know, from a Nikon perspective, I'm excited because now the void is starting to get filled in. So now we can go side by side at Conowingo at all these different places, and people are not, God, I wish I had like an R7 replacement. It's coming. It's coming. And once they have it in their hands, then it's going to be exciting because that won't be a point of discussion anymore. So we do have a lot of fun together. So looking forward to hanging out with all of you soon.
Well, and I'm hoping that, you know, we become an influence for other channels. I'm not saying that like we're the best or the greatest or whatever, just the fact that we can have a civil conversation over here. I love the community. The community is fantastic. I mean, I couldn't ask for better people that come in, the viewers, those that don't even chat. That's fine too, because I know a lot of people like to, run this in the background because there really isn't anything visually to see until we do our photo review. But yeah, I appreciate everybody that comes on the channel. You guys know that I appreciate you. I'm absolutely humbled. I don't feign humility. I am actually humbled by all the, you know, support that I get from everybody. The super chats are fantastic. I don't expect that in any way, shape, or form, but I really appreciate it because there is a little bit of operating costs that goes into this. It's nothing tremendous, but there is a little bit of operating costs, and that helps offset it. And I do appreciate it. But thank you, everybody that's in here right now. Let me get moving because I get these long goodbyes going and I can't get out of here. But I'm sorry I have to run, but I do. And we will be back Saturday night. Check out the description and the thumbnail for this video or this live stream. It's got all the information about submitting photos for the photo review if you're interested. First Saturday of every month. This coming June, it happens to be June 3rd. So get your photos together and by all means submit a photo and become part of that as well. We have a real good community going on there as well. But thank you again to everybody. God bless everyone. I will see you on Saturday.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.